Hello, one. Hello, all. Welcome to this edition of WILI Interviews. We have a happy one this time. No serious stuff, thankfully. We have a multi-talented, a filmmaker, a film actor, a voice actor, a YouTuber extraordinaire. Dave McRae is joining us. Dave, how are you?
I don't think I'm going to live up to that intro. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks very much. I'm doing good. Do you want me to call you CP or
You get CP Charles, whatever.
CP Charles, Bob? We'll call you Bob.
Yeah,
Whatever, Bob.
CP. If you type it on the internet, it gets bad stuff that rhymes with mild corn.
Okay.
So,
okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. CP it is. It's easy to remember. We'll just make it the same across the board.
Yeah.
All right. So, I'm doing good.
Yeah. You recently released It's Me, Billy, which is a Black Christmas fan film. I guess my first question is, because you're mainly known in the YouTube community for Halloween. Like you're one of the Halloween guys. What brought you to Black Christmas of all things?
Well, Black Christmas is the original from 1974 is a Canadian film shot here in Toronto. That's where I'm based, in Toronto. And you know, I had, I was looking to, I just turned 40 in 2019, and I've spent over 20 years in the entertainment industry, but mostly in the professional voiceover side of things. I went to film school in the late 90s. And that's what I wanted to do with my life. But, obviously when you have a plan, it doesn't usually go as planned. There's always sort of detours and life choices you make and, all that kind of stuff. And so I wound up doing the voiceover side, and I've dabbled in the filmmaking and, shooting small little things and shorts here or there just to kind of keep the creative juices flowing and making, little Halloween fan films and all that kind of stuff. But when I turned 40, I thought, man, 40. Wow. It's not old, but it's not young. It's kind of like at that point where you're like saying goodbye and, looking up, you're no longer looking up to 40, you're looking up to 50.
Yeah.
It's just kind of
you
like,
get hurts getting up, just, oh
yeah, exactly. Hurts taking a crap, and so, so I thought, I want to make a movie, a real movie, so to speak. And I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew. So, I was like, I guess I could do another Halloween fan film. But I'm like, oh, there's so many Halloween fan films and everybody's doing a Halloween fan film, and some are really good and some are not so good. And there's some kind of in between. And one night I was watching Black Christmas, not for any purpose other than just because I hadn't seen it in a while. And the ending of that movie is so good. It's one of the greatest endings in horror. It's such a great, ambiguous ending.
Sure.
And it doesn't need a sequel at all. But for whatever reason, I was watching it and it ended, and I thought, I wonder if it would be fun to dabble in that space. It's a fan film again. It's not, an original piece, but sometimes it's hard to get backing for something original, when you don't have a lot in terms of the quality that you want to go to with something. So I wanted to dabble in the fan film world again, but I didn't want to do Halloween. And Vincent DeSanti, of course, has Friday the 13th locked up. Cecil's about to hone in on Freddy. And Halloween is just, everywhere. And I thought, Black Christmas, I wonder. And then, of course, I'm Canadian from Toronto. It's Canadian, shot in Toronto. There's a romanticism kind of around that, it's kind of fun. And so I was like, maybe that's what I should do. So I brought the idea to my buddy Bruce, who I've known for 30 years. He works in the film industry here in Toronto. And I brought it to him, and he was aware of the film, but he had never seen it before.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, do you think we should, I was like, it's this idea. And he was like, I don't know, fan film again. Because Bruce I love the guy to death. He's been so good at helping me with my fan films, and he was like, another fan film, you sure? And I'm like, no, but this one, it's not Michael Myers, don't worry, I'm not going to put on the jumpsuit and walking around with a knife. It's like, we could really, let's like go full out, let's utilize the idea was, let's finally utilize our connections and resources working in the business to the best that we could to make a real film, right?
Mhm.
And so we sat down and we watched Black Christmas, and by the end of the movie, to make a long story short, by the end of the movie, he was like, I get it. You know what I mean? He's like, this is really cool. I think there's something we could do here. Yeah, let's totally do it. Let's do Black Christmas, you know, and who better to do it? Because there'd never been a sequel. There'd been 2 remakes in 06 and 19,
Yeah.
but there had never been a sequel. Not that it needs one, but there never been one. So who better to do it than 2 Canadian filmmakers from Toronto? So that's what we decided to do. That's kind of the Cliff Notes version.
Did that make it easier or more difficult having essentially one movie 3 times to work on? And please tell me you didn't even think of 19 when you were.
No,
Okay.
no, we didn't even think about 6 either.
Yeah.
I think it made it a little easier because I think there's really no expectations. I mean, there's expectations to a degree in terms of because the original is such a beloved classic. It's a cult, you know, it's got that cult emotional nostalgic attachment by a lot of people, and so there's those expectations you have to live up to, but
Mhm.
it's pretty much a free, like a blank slate, you know. There's not this larger, bigger picture of all these characters and storylines and mythology, and it just is that one movie essentially, which is what we wanted to sort of that was our springboard.
Mhm.
So I think it was probably easier rather than having to think about, you know, 10 movies as opposed to one.
Yeah. Um, as far as technically is concerned, I remember watching it and thinking that, or at least for the first 15, 20 minutes or so, as far as cinematography was concerned, everything felt safe and well lit. And I thought, okay, just going by the numbers here. But slowly but surely, you start playing around with color and darkness, and it really pops towards the end there. Did you plan that on purpose to be literally like night and day with the way you shot that?
Yeah, so our DP, shout out to our DP Gregory Bennett, who's a 2-time CSC award nominee. That's the Canadian Society of Cinematographers, and he's been doing this for, I guess, 25 or 30 years now. And we had reached out to him. He had that was somebody that we knew in the business, and he was totally on board. He loved the idea, and to be able to. He has not done a lot of horror, so he really thought this is great. You know, I want to do this. And the goal for us was, you know, there's three or four, I should say. There's four colors to the film. And so when we open the film, obviously, you know, with the drone shots and the landscapes and the girls outside, uh, you know, the location is moody in and of itself.
Hmm.
And atmosphere isn't just about darkness and about light and shadow. Atmosphere or mood, I should say, mood and atmosphere, as you know, I often say, is a feeling as well, a
Hmm.
tone. And you can create a sense of mood and atmosphere during the daytime as well. And we wanted to create that. And so the daytime stuff has more of a cool sort of, just like you said, I mean, sort of just what you would expect, you know, nothing fancy. It
Hmm.
is just sort of what you would expect in this kind of a location, in this kind of a situation. And then when we get inside, after the porch scene, when the girls are outside on the porch, we go inside, and now things are warmer. So, you know, when they're at the dining room, it's lit very sort of tungsten, and it's got this warmer, kind of cozier feel. That's our second color. When the girls go from the dining room into the living room, same kind of thing, right? You got the Christmas tree and the girls in their living room. When Sam's on the phone, still that same kind of feel and that tone.
I think that's the first time you actually make a genuine camera movement too, if I'm not mistaken, in the dining room when you track in.
The
Am I
outside of the drone
mistaken?
shots, yeah, a lot of a lot of the stuff that we shot was on sticks, and we wanted to do that because, you know, when you're making a movie and you know, you're telling the story through a lens. Well, no, actually that's not true. We had when Sam when they first enter the house, we have the camera on a jib on track.
Oh,
camera is
Okay.
pushing in towards the girls at the door. When they first enter the house, the camera's moving in. And then when Sam enters the living room after the girls, and then the girls go upstairs, Emma and Justine go up the stairs and the camera follows them up the stairs a bit. That's on a track in Jib as well. And then the next shot after that is Sam when she walks into the living room, and we have the camera on a Dana dolly, and we're tracking her as she walks, over to the tree and then over to the mantle. We're tracking there. So there definitely is camera movement once we get inside the house. And that was very important to us, because a lot of, you're telling the story through the lens of the camera, and where you place the camera and the composition and the framing is all part of it. I mean, too much to the right, too much to the left or up or down can change the feeling and the whole presentation of the story you're telling. So definitely we spent about 2.5 months on our shot list, really honing in on the script and how we wanted to shoot the film. The third color, before I forget, of course, is when things get dark. And then, of course, things get colder. So when Sam is walking around the house at nighttime and you see her silhouette, or when Justine is in her bed, again, there's more of that colder sort of moonlight feel. And that would be our third. And then our fourth is when things become very red and saturated in the hallway leading up to the attic. So there's 4 colors throughout the film, and that's intentional, and there's symbolism to that as well. As you're going from the coldness into the red is caution, red is warning, red is go back, you know what I mean? Things are getting more evil, and as she gets closer and closer to Billy.
I absolutely love the shot of the stairway, by the way. I had myself convinced that there was more going on with the lighting than just the Christmas lights, but bravo.
No, it was the Christmas lights, and there are lights outside, obviously.
Well, yeah, the way the walls were pink and everything, I was just like, there's got to be something else going on here.
No, it's just the Christmas lights.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. Shout out to our team, man. I mean, they did amazing work. I mean, there was even the log files, I mean, even the raw footage looks amazing. And that's kudos to them to helping to bring our vision to life in that sense. And it's a team effort, and everybody that worked on the film were professionals. They all work in the film industry here in Canada. They've all since gone on to do 5 other films and 10 other shows. I mean it's what they do, and it's me. Billy was just a stop along the way. So to be able to produce, write, and direct a film with my buddy, and watching this crew work doing what they do, without they don't have to figure out how to do it. You tell them what to do, they know what to do, and they just go and do it. And that was cool. It was because I'd never been in that position before with a professional crew at this level, watching them work, under your direction. So it was surreal in a lot of ways. And I remember there was a moment on set when I think what was it? We were shooting the porch scene. I remember we were outside, and Bruce and I would alternate on sometimes who would take a scene, or, and I guess I had this one shot, and I had said cut, and I was thinking about the shot, but then all the eyes just looked over at me. You know what I mean? Like everybody, looks at me because they're waiting for me to, and these are guys that have been doing this for years, and so it was a surreal moment where I'm like, oh yeah, that was good. Yeah, that's good, guys. That's good. It was just, you got used to it as the week went on, but because that was day one, right? So that was kind of like, it was pretty cool. They were, and they didn't, one of the biggest compliments we got was one of our, I think it was one of our grips, or maybe it was even our sound guy, said, you would never know that you hadn't been doing this for like 10 years. Like, you guys are, it's some of the best, and they said this, honest to goodness, they said it's one of the best indie shoots we've ever been on.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
I would say that too.
Organized we were. And
yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. I told you this last time we spoke, but there's this thing about me and people sending me fan films and getting the failed filmmaker to shit on fan films. And 5 minutes in, I'm like, guys, there's nothing this is a movie. I have nothing to work with. This is
I appreciate that. That's really cool.
It's spectacular.
I did check out that video after I got wind of it, after you said that you had done that. If I had known that you were the guy that people send that to, and I had got wind of it before that, it would have been like, oh my God. Oh God, what the hell is he gonna say? You know, I would have been, I don't even think I probably would have watched. I would have been like, oh my God, if I gotta watch. So that's good to know. That's cool. And I did see your reaction, and it was cool. It's always great when you can, you know, when you feel like your hard work pays off, you know.
You have an homage, let's say, in a scene in a car. Did you feel like you needed to do that?
The scene, does it
in
involve
the
something
back?
plastic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did I feel we needed to do that? Yes, I think I do.
Okay.
It was, you know, we wanted to, if we had no intention of ending it in the ways that we did, that's probably where we would have ended the film. Because it's a great ending. You just kind of close on that, and that's it. But we ended the film in the ways that we did because, you know, it was designed to be episodic, and because, you know, we do have more that we want to tell. I made the joke not too long ago. Somebody had said, you know, is there going to be a part two? Is there going to be a part two? And I said, well, I mean, if it continues to do well, you know, perhaps. And they're like, because it's kind of weird how it just ends like that. I said, listen, I'm not Lucasfilm. Okay, we're not making this up as we go along. All right. I said, we know where we want to go. But when you're not backed by a studio and you're independent, you know, as you know, you usually have to take these things in chunks, especially when you don't have the track record to back it up. I mean, Vince now could probably ask for 300,000 and he'd get it.
Sure.
But at first, nobody's going to give him that because like,
Right.
what the hell's going on, right? But now he's got two solid fan films with great production value that's, you know, extending the story, and now he could probably do that. But we couldn't, you know, I mean, to shoot the whole thing, we would have had to have asked for, probably double. We asked for 60, we got it. We probably would have had to have asked for like 120. And we wanted to take it in stages, you know what I mean? So
that's
yeah,
ironic.
no,
You would be the
intentional.
first, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's kind of ironic that you would be the first person to make a sequel to Black Christmas because it hasn't been done before.
No, it's never been done. And I've had, you know, although it's unofficial, and certainly because we don't own the IP, you know, some of the best compliments we've got is from people saying, you know what, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I think this is the sequel.
Sure.
You know, and that's
Sure.
really cool, you know, and of course it's not done. I mean, we ended it like that so people would go, okay, take my money, you know what I mean, or you know, whatever it is, right? And we want to end it. And but yeah, but to your original point about that backseat shot, it was always there. We wanted to do it. We wanted to pay homage, and we thought it was a great shot to have, because and we waited, right? It's such a classic symbolic shot of the original film, of the franchise. And we hadn't presented it all throughout the movie, and we suspected people would be like, oh, I guess they're not going to show that thing, you know, but then you get it, you know. So
yeah, it seems like a fan film thing to do, and not like a dirty word or anything. You got to do something that, you know,
fan service, baby.
Yeah, I keep telling Cecil he's got to put a Hypnosil bottle somewhere in somewhere in that film. I don't care where it is, but and with that, I guess I'll go ahead and segue to Cecil's film. You're playing Freddy in a film coming up called
Freddy
Dylan's
Krueger.
New Nightmare. How do you feel about that?
I think it's cool, man. I think it's crazy because I remember Cecil had asked me in an inconspicuous way in the summer of 2019 if I wanted to do it, and I was like, yeah, you know, I mean, I never get involved with anything that is, you know, that I don't feel. I wouldn't have gotten involved if there wasn't a good team behind it. and I'm not just, if somebody reaches out to me and says, hey, I want you to be a part of this, which I have gotten many times. There was somebody who reached out to me, I think a year or so ago, that wanted me to be in their movie, and I was like, well, where are you? I think this is before COVID, actually, maybe a couple months before COVID. And somebody had said, wanting to be in the movie, and they were shooting in, like, I don't know, Alabama or something. I was like, okay. But they were expecting me to pay my own way and, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, but I don't even know you. Why am I like, I'm not paying, so I was like, no, guys, I'm a professional. I can't just get up and, and go, it's not how this works. So when I got to know Cecil more, and because I had met him at the 40th anniversary convention, the Halloween convention, Pasadena, in 2018, and then we had kept in touch. But it was that interview that we did in the summer of 2019 that really sort of was the catalyst of our online friendship at the very, well, no, I guess we've met in person now. I can say friendship for sure. And then when he said who was on board between, himself and Vince and Miko and all that, it was an attractive offer. And having professionals involved and people who have, the reputations and makes it, as a fellow professional, makes it more attractive for me. And I know that I'm not going to be exploited or waste my time. So I'm excited about it. And to play Freddy opposite Miko and to, do hopefully for Elm Street what Vince has done for Friday the 13th and what I've done for Black Christmas, I think is a cool thing. And I'm looking forward to it. I am. Yeah.
Now, you're not just voicing Freddy, you're also playing Freddy. Do you feel that there's any sort of pressure in playing Freddy Krueger?
I haven't really thought about it. I mean, I have, but not really. I mean, I think because I know I'm so certain on what I know, what I think it has to be. And I'm not one of these people that thinks that Robert Englund cannot be replaced. I can intellectualize and understand the emotional attachment one has to Robert Englund. And when you get to a certain age, Robert Englund will always be your Freddy. Like he'll always be my Freddy. Like Harrison Ford will always be my Indiana Jones and Han Solo. But that doesn't mean that they're, these people that say, no, there's never anybody that's ever like ever in the history of the world, there's never anybody that could ever play that. It's of course there is. Of course there is. So my goal is not to go out and do a Robert Englund impression, because I'm just setting myself up for failure. My goal has always been, and even Miko agreed when we all met for dinner a couple years ago, I said, my goal is to bring the essence of the character there, make it my own. But by the end of the film, if you walk away going, I believe that was Freddy, I believe that's Freddy, then I think I've done my job. If I set out to do a Robert Englund impression, then I think I'm just going to be too worried. Oh, am I doing it right? Am I standing right? Am I talking right? Am I, you know what I mean? And it's just, that's not what you need. You need to understand the essence of the character, and what makes Freddy Freddy. But then you got to just, bring Dave McRae to it. And if people can say, yeah, I believe that was Freddy. It's not Robert Englund, but I totally believe that's Freddy Krueger. Then I've done my job.
Yeah, New Nightmare, with the exception of maybe 2, is probably the darkest Freddy that we've seen.
Agreed. I love 2.
Yeah. Do you get to have fun at all without spoiling anything?
There's a few moments. I think that some Freddy-isms come out. It's a short film, right? So, I mean, the entire film might end up even being shorter than It's Me, Billy. Now, It's Me, Billy was a 23.5-page script, and it ended up being a 42-minute movie, TRT, total runtime with credits. I think it was about 38 minutes without credits. But the reason why It's Me, Billy was 23.5-page script, but ended up being about 38 minutes is because from about page 16 onward, there was a lot of action. Now, I don't mean, for those of you out there that may not know what I'm talking about, I don't mean action in terms of like, machine gun action. I mean, just action like character walking from one room to the next. And, so there's a lot of suspense. And if you've seen It's Me, Billy, we have Sam who's, walking down the hall, and, it's very, slow, and we're building suspense and things like that. And that can take a couple of pages, and more screen time in minutes. So that's why it kind of stretches out that way. With Dylan's New Nightmare, not to give anything away, but I think it's a bit tighter in that way. There's not a lot of that kind of thing happening, I don't think. So it may end up being like a 25-minute movie. So, but it's, again, and this isn't a spoiler because Cecil has said it, it too is the first in hopefully, 2 or 3 of these things, right? So it could be like the first act, or maybe even half of the first act, so, but there's a few things in there. Yeah, it's fun.
This is pretty wild. Do you think that maybe some people in the industry are getting word of just how, like, there's a couple of fan films now that might as well just be bought and repackaged as films, as far as I'm
not
concerned.
agree more.
So do you think something may come of this eventually, where studios or producers think, okay, maybe we should turn this over to this guy or this guy, because here's his reel. We know he knows the project. It's not just, so I mean, you guys would work cheap, and you'd
well,
be
cheaper. Cheaper.
Yeah, right.
Right, yeah. Let's be honest here, CP, okay? Yeah. I mean, I know you got CP, cheap, but I'm just saying. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
Do you think that's possible? Do you hope for that? Because
I think so. I think the first thing that has to happen, and it's one of the reasons why myself, and even Cecil and certainly Vince, who sort of opened the door for this, certainly in the horror space. I mean, there have been what some people could perceive as if not at least very close to studio level looking fan films before, if it comes to like Star Wars or like whatever the case is. There's a few out there that are actually really, really good, that are shot on like the Airy or the Red, whatever. But when it comes to horror, this is sort of relatively new, dating back to kind of when Vince kind of opened that door. And I think we'd all be lying if we said that, you don't make these movies just for the hell of it. You make it and you go this far. I mean, maybe you make it on your phone for the hell of it, but when you spend this much money and you put this much effort and time into it, yeah, you want it to be seen. You're hoping people see it, and not just fans of the movie. You're hoping people in high places see it. But I think there's still a stigma around fan films. And that's one of the things that I think needs to be, I don't think it'll ever go away. So you might, because I mean, the vast majority of fan films, I think, will always be in your backyard with your friends on your phone with no idea how to shoot a movie. I think because it's so easy and it's so accessible, I think it's going to be very far and few between in the big picture when you have like, studio quality films, fan films. So I think maybe there should be maybe a new category, or something to that degree,
Yeah.
where, like, you elevate it to like
in between. Yeah.
in between. Yeah. Somewhere where it's different. Because, I can certainly tell you that we had talks about it. Like, how cool would it be if, because, even though our film with It's Me, Billy isn't done, certainly I've had a lot of people say that this should have been, the remake. I mean, this baseline of 50 years later, following her, whatever the case is. And if we had like $6 million as opposed to 60,000, then we could have turned it into a feature and had more characters and built the backstory a bit more. And that really, so it's a proof of concept, in a lot of ways, as Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow is as well. And as Dylan's New Nightmare will be, they're real movies, but they're going to be proof of concepts and portfolio pieces. And it would be great if somebody was like, that's a really good fucking idea.
Yeah.
We should do this. We should let's talk to these guys. And, but I mean, there's a number of factors of why that hasn't happened. It's difficult. It's difficult to get people to care. There's nothing. Yeah. It's about getting people to care. It's about getting people to care, removing the stigma. But you know what? If a studio thinks they can make money off of it, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? So
Yeah, what's funny is It's Me Billy passes the Bechtel test, and it
never even, yeah.
well, I mean, the big thing about 2019, I mean, my wife, for fuck's sake, she was like, enough already with
Right.
the we get it, women raw,
Yeah.
but you do it without it. You barely notice they're characters first. They're not women
Right.
first.
Right. Well, and we wanted to kind of go with what Bob Clark did with the original. Now, again, I mean, it's 1974. It's a bit dated,
Mhm.
obviously. But you can see it when he talks about it. You can see it when you watch the film, is that the movies, I mean, yes, you do have Margot, who's a bit eccentric, and certainly Mrs. Mack, the, house mom there, who's a bit eccentric. But
Mhm.
the principle of what Bob Clark was talking about is true, that you don't really have real archetypal character. You got, the slut and the this and the that. I know Margot's a kind of like that, but in terms of it's not overly sensationalized. They feel like real people, real college girls,
Sure.
worried about real things. Of course, when you slip in the abortion thing in there, which was huge in 1974,
Right.
that subtext, that obviously makes it a little more grounded and like, holy crap. And then, of course, it's the woman that wants the abortion and the man that wants to keep it, which is a bit of a role reversal in this, certainly way back then.
Mhm.
So we wanted our approach to be the same with It's Me, Billy. We wanted it to feel like these were real people. These were real girls, that there isn't, you're not going, oh, so she's the slut, she's the bimbo, she's the, we wanted them to have distinct personalities, but them to feel like real people, characters first. And we wanted to spend some time with them too. So you get emotionally attached to them. So you care about them when shit hits the fan.
Mhm.
And that's tough to do in 42 minutes. But I think we achieved that, and showing, just having specific moments with each of the characters, having their own moments to shine with each other. I think was able to do that rather than just rushing into the nitty gritty. It's a slow burn, like the original film was.
Do you think horror fans get a little too uh hungry or spoiled when it comes to kills? I feel like if they make a major studio makes a slasher or something, they're really focusing on the kills and stuff like that. They're foregoing character development for
Yeah.
this nasty kill. And the thing that people talk about are the kills. I mean, you go to YouTube, there's kill counts, not
Kill
oh
counts, kill lists.
yeah,
Yeah.
and not oh Stacy and Don's relationship homage movie.
Can you imagine? Top 10 character development moments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that'd be great.
so do you think that maybe horror fans need to just suck it up a little bit to get better quality, or do you think they're okay?
It's a great question. I think that it really comes down to the subgenre. And I think, you have horror, and then you have its many different subgenres. And
Mhm.
and the slasher subgenre, is not really like today, without the slasher subgenre today in 2021 is really I mean, it always was really to some degree, but the slasher subgenre today certainly is very B movie, straight to streaming kind of thing. I mean, very rarely do you get a slasher, a new slasher that goes to the theater. Yes, Halloween's
Mhm.
going to the theater, but it's usually a property from years ago. Halloween, Friday the 13th, Candyman,
Mhm.
Scream. You know what I mean? It's these are proven properties that are going to make money based on nostalgia. And I think when it comes to that subgenre, that slasher subgenre, that is kind of, I guess, what people love about it. They love just watching people run around topless and getting killed. But I think I think the slasher, it wouldn't hurt I don't think the slasher subgenre, because it's so identified as being a certain thing, I think it would detract from it if all of a sudden this major drama character development started to kind of although maybe not, who knows, but kind of get in the way of what people want to see, which I think is then you move over to psychological thriller or psychological horror or psychological drama or slasher drama, whatever the case is, right? You can mix and match them. Black Christmas was sort of like that. It was very early slasher for all intents and purposes. You put it in that category, but it's a slow burn, arguably even slower than Halloween. And with It's Me, Billy, we were focused on the characters and the development of that. And I think that's a series franchise that you can do that with because of its foundation. I think if your foundation is all about kills and Friday the 13th, I think you can amp it up a little bit, get us to care maybe a bit more. But if you go too far and you make people are going to be like, what the hell's going on here? You got all this lovey-dovey stuff and this character development. Where are the kills, man? Where's the kills? So I think I don't know if I'm answering your question. It's more, I think it really, it comes down to it's a good question. It really is. And yes, I agree with you that but I think it comes down to the taste of the specific genres.
Sure.
How there's
case by case basis,
case by case, and how there's more subgenres today than there ever has been, and even fans are making up their own subgenres. Terminator is now I know Cody Leach thinks it's a slasher film. I'm just saying, but they start to think those things, right? It's a slasher, sci-fi, psychological, and now it's like fans have more ownership now over films and genres than I think they ever have. So there's almost like their expectations are bigger than they've ever been, and kills are a big part of a slasher movie, and people want to see that. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think I'm in the ballpark anyway.
Yeah.
The ballpark of what you were saying, but I think it's a case by case basis. Yeah.
So the other thing I noticed about It's Me, Billy, and thankfully I had headphones on watching the movie, was the sound was absolutely top notch. It was brilliant. Congrats on that, sir.
Thank you. Worked very hard on it.
Yes. How long did that take?
Well, from beginning to end, about 5 months.
Just on sound.
Well, because we wanted to get the film out May 28th, we were working picture and sound simultaneously.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
and the reason that you're so adept with sound is because that's what you do.
It's a good segue.
I'm trying.
It's what I do.
So how did you get started as a voice artist?
Well, I come from I grew up in a media family. My dad was a journalist and a columnist here in Canada. He passed away in 2011. But he was, for a big part of his life, certainly through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, was one of the top columnists in the country. And I have photos behind my computer here of my dad with the Beatles, Robert Kennedy, Liberace, Burton Cummings of the Guess Who, John Candy. It was quite the experience growing up in that kind of a family. I met all sorts of different types of people. And my dad was a very, eccentric, outgoing. He could write something that pisses you off and then he could make you cry the next day and forgive him. You know what I mean? And he was just that kind of a guy. He was on the radio as well. And he was just a very extroverted, a talkative person like me. So definitely a lot of my personality and theatrics and all that is inherited. Certainly. I think my grandmother was even like that, which is hilarious. and so I always knew, but I loved movies and I wanted to get into movies and making movies and all that kind of stuff. But I loved acting. I did start in front of the camera as well in commercials and things like that, and docudramas and
Mhm.
stuff. And then and I was dabbling in the voiceover work when I left college in 2001. I was dabbling in the voiceover work. I didn't graduate. I studied radio, television, and film at Niagara College in Welland, Ontario, which is just about 20 minutes from Niagara Falls.
Mhm.
And it's a 3-year program. I did 2, and I was having trouble keeping up, and I mean, obviously people graduate from the program, but I lost interest because I wanted to. I guess I'm more of I'm a linear storyteller in a lot of ways, and I think I'm a linear learner. And when I have all these things, all these extra classes and work and all that, I was just having
Mhm.
trouble keeping up. And if it was just film, if it was just TV, if it was just radio, I think I'd be fine. But of course, it can't just be film, TV, and radio. You got to throw broadcast journalism in there, and broadcast management, and current
Mhm.
events, and computer class, and an English class. Like, I have to take this. Yes, you
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God. And I just couldn't keep up. So I decided to leave. So I left and pursue my career differently. And I moved from Welland to Toronto, of course, which is, where you got to be here, Toronto or Vancouver. And I got an agent, and I started doing auditions for commercials and music videos and docudramas and all that kind of stuff. And I was also dabbling in voiceover a little bit at that time because I had my own show on the college radio station. So when I left, I kind of carried that interest with me. And then in 2003 or 2, I was visiting some family back in Ottawa, which is about 4.5 hours from Toronto. It's where I grew up, 10 years of my life anyway. It's where I went to high school. And I was playing road hockey, street hockey. And it's such a Canadian thing. It was getting dark out, and we were kind of like, okay, last goal wins, because we're having trouble seeing the ball now. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I scored the last goal, and I was like, yeah, I was all excited. And I throw your hands up in the air as you do. And the shaft of my stick came down across my teeth
Mm.
and knocked my teeth out.
Mm.
And so this tooth is fake. So I'm actually not all human. I'm actually literally not all human. This tooth is fake. This was chipped, I think, and this was kind of out of the gum. And that put, my on-camera acting career on hold, needless to say, unless somebody needed a, whole face background guy or something. So then, while I was in the middle of trying to get that all that solved, and of course it's not cheap to get that fixed.
Sure.
And at the time I was only like 22 or whatever it was. So I said to my agent, I said, maybe I could try some voiceover. I was like, well, can you speak? And I was like, I can certainly talk, and so that's kind of how that started. And then I never looked back. I'm not with the agent I was with then.
Mhm.
But that's kind of how it began. Was I fell into the voiceover because I had broke my teeth playing road hockey.
Wow.
And then I haven't looked back. I've been doing it full time now since 2006, and so professionally since 2001.
So the way that you present yourself it's just over time of learning. There's or time of experience. There's no education per se.
There definitely is education. I get asked a lot by aspiring voice actors how to get into the business or how to get into voiceover, and I always say, if they're new, I always say the bit. For me, I didn't take any formal training, and I think I relied heavily on my, no, and I don't say this in a braggadocious way, but I think I relied heavily on my natural talent as a performer and as an
Mhm.
extrovert and as an actor. Some people have that natural talent, some people don't, and I relied heavily on that, which helped me big time. Not that I didn't take workshops and all that kind of stuff. I did, but certainly when it came to voiceover, it was relying heavily on that. But one of the things that I've learned over the years, and any voice actor will tell you this, that one of the biggest misconceptions about voiceover is that it has very little to do with the sound of your voice. You can have, I mean, there are voice actors that have great voices right now, great voices that are struggling to make any sort of career out of it. And there are voice actors right now working that have seemingly average voices that are having huge success. And because it's not really about your voice, having a nice voice or a soothing voice or a sexy voice or whatever certainly can help, depending on the role that you're playing. But that doesn't mean you're going to be successful. It's about acting. It's voice acting. And that's why a lot of the voice actors will say, if you want to get into voiceover, take an acting class first and learn the art of performance, learn the art of acting, take an improv class, step out of your comfort zone, learn to, interact with others and step out of your comfort zone. If you've never been behind the microphone before in your life, starting behind the microphone may not be the best place to do it, especially if you've never taken an acting class. It really is about acting. You're always playing some sort of fictional version of yourself, whether you're doing movie trailers, network promos, radio and television commercials, animation, narration, whatever it is. You're not playing yourself. Even when you're the announcer, you're playing some sort of fictional version of yourself, and how to interpret copy and how to take direction. And for me, I learned that sort of as I went along. And it's, but any voice actor will tell you that it really is about acting. It's voice acting.
So, how would you say you developed your cadence and vocabulary? A comparison that I make, because when I hear you talk, I just recently watched your video where you discussed the line from the Halloween Kills trailer, "He transcends," and that's an hour and a half video, and
how the hell do you?
Yeah. So what it reminds me of, because when I used to drive to work, I used to do road work as a comic.
The way you said that was great. It's an hour and a half video. How the hell did you talk about that for an hour and a half?
Yeah. So by comparison, I would listen to Colin Cowherd, who's a sports talk guy, and sure enough, he could talk about
shoelaces.
one thing, and basically carry 2 hours, and you're like, he's still talking about how the Knicks suck. This is incredible. How does that happen? How do you maintain cadence and have a vocabulary to not get yourself in circles, but still be engaging?
Well, sometimes I go in circles. I would say that I don't have an exact answer for it, but I think when I think about it, or when I try to think about it objectively, I think what it comes down to is, and I know this may sound like a cop-out, but when I think of my dad and I think of the kind of man he was and the way he would write or the way he would tell stories, my dad could tell a story, make up something on the spot, and he could talk for 20 minutes, or when you're talking to my dad, he might not get to the point right away. He might take you, around here like this, and he's doing this, and he's taking you around here like this. But if you hang in long enough, he's going to bring it home, and you're going to go, holy fucking shit. You know what I mean? It's just, my dad could always stick the landing. And I think I get that from him. My dad was a speaker, was a communicator, for all intents and purposes. And I think I have that natural inquisitive nature that he had, to the gift of the gab, as they say, and to be able to talk and be excited about what I'm talking about, and to be animated and theatrical, and I think I genuinely get excited about what I'm talking about, and I know that and of course I don't think of this consciously, but I think the more excited I am and the more engaged I am, the more engaged people will be with me with their popcorn or something. It's this communal experience. And I certainly do go off on tangents and around like this. But I think I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about the things that I'm interested in. And when you're solo and it's just you on a show, and when you have to carry the whole thing, it helps if you can be like that, when you don't have a co-host to bounce things off of, or to take a break. But I'd be lying if there weren't shows where I'd be like, okay, folks, I'll talk to you soon. Cheers. And then when it goes to the Patreon card, I'm like, holy fucking shit. I go have a nap. I mean, that sometimes does happen, because I start the show here and I stay here for 90 minutes.
Hmm.
you know, and that can be tough. But I think that's what it is. I think it's just, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I'm a good storyteller. That's not for me to decide. But I think that's what it is. It's about telling stories. That everything to me is always telling a story. You know, I'm always cinematic about everything. You know,
Yeah. With my comedy background, I would say that you're on. You're always on,
always on.
yeah,
That's right.
and my like I didn't mean to slight you with the hour and a half thing.
No, no, dude, I know. I tell myself that.
Because you know I was taught, you know, get there in three. You got to, you know, three sentences and then a laugh line.
Right.
So to go that long is it sounds so daunting to me, and you know it's impressive to be on for that.
Yeah.
Like it's just I'm in awe at times.
Well, it can be tough, you know. I mean, there's some days that I don't want to be on, you know, I don't want to go on. Maybe there's
Hmm.
something happening in my personal life, you know, or maybe I'm just tired, you
Yeah.
know, or maybe I just need a break and I want to take a day off, you know, but there's something that people are excited about. And then I get excited because they're excited. Dave, did you see this? And I'm like, okay, okay, we'll talk about it. You know what I mean? And I get sort of excited, you know,
Hmm.
and, but certainly there is a certain level of energy that you exert doing that. It's a, you know, I always say to people on my show, and I think on my channel, and I think most people, I mean, if they're new, they might not know, but you know, I'm very theatrical. I'm performing. I'm an actor. That's
Hmm.
what I do. So it's not that I'm being disingenuous with the information, but it's all about how you package that information and present it. And there are people that don't like me because they think I'm condescending, pretentious, and arrogant because of the way I've packaged the information and the presentation of that information. They
Hmm.
could go and, you know, watch Bob, who's presenting the exact same information, but it's packaged differently and it's more their style. So they get more out of it. They get something out of it. Even though we're relaying the same information, it's just packaged. You know, I'm up here, maybe they're down here, or something to that effect.
Bob's a hack.
Bob's a hack anyway. Fuck Bob. Now I can sit now. Now I'm getting a message from a Bob. What do you mean? But I think I can't do it any other way. You know, I can't, if I'm going to get on here and talk, and it's part of who I am. It's part of, you know, performing and acting and being theatrical. I love it. You know, I love doing the crazy voices and the teasing and the, you know, and, you know, I'm being satirical to make a point, and, you
Mhm.
know, and it's just, I enjoy it. I can't not do that. And, you know, it's funny. I think it's become sort of part of my, at least on YouTube, part of my brand,
Mhm.
that people know that what they're going to get if they listen to Dave McRae, they're going to get a show. It's the show. You know what I mean? It's, you're getting a show and hopefully you get information along with it.
How much of your YouTube brand would you say has you, Dave McRae, in it? Like I always tell people CP is Charles with some of the knobs turned up.
um, I would say that a lot of it. I think, you know, if you were to, like, it depends on the setting, it depends on the environment, you know, I what you see is what you get. And if we were all hanging out together in a room, I think you would see that Dave. But you know, you're not going to see that Dave at a funeral. You know, you're not going to see that Dave at a, you know, you know, it depends on the setting and it depends on the situation. But I do think a big part of that is me. I mean, I do enjoy doing funny voices and making people laugh. And I actually did, funny you bring up stand-up comedy. I actually did some stand-up when I was in college, open mic night. I was invited to go up because a lot of my fellow college mates were like, you got to go up, you got to go up, you got to go up and do, you know, mic night. So I was like, okay, I'll go up and do mic night. So I went up and I did an open mic night, and it was actually quite a big success. And I sort of just, I didn't write any routine. I mean, I wasn't a comic. I just had these kind of points that I wanted to make. And I went up there and people loved it so much so that the owner of the bar on campus came out and said, would you be willing to come back during a regular comedy night when we have professional comics up here? And I was like, well, okay, I guess I'll come up. So and this is the only 2 times I've done it, but I remember I did that. I went back, this maybe like 4 or 5 months, well, maybe not that much later, maybe a month later. And I had fellow friends come out, in support. And it was a regular comedy night. So, the place was packed. And I don't know who the comics were, but they were obviously professional comics. And I remember, and this was interesting, because I always remember this. The guy was up there. I don't know who he was. He was getting a few laughs. It wasn't tanking or anything, but his style changed after I got up, which was interesting. I got up there because there was him, and then there was a break, and during the break I went up, and then he came back up after I was done. So I had, I don't know, 5 minutes or something. And I went up there and I sort of recycled a little bit of what I did at the open mic night, because now there's like a bigger audience. And I was, being theatrical Dave. Just picture me 22, or no, 21, I guess. And I'm doing my thing, the voices and the theatrics and the faces and and I'm making connections to observational humor in life and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to think of what one of the jokes was. I think one of the jokes was something like, I think it was something about how I was making the observation, how when you count, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's stop. It's so stupid. That's what this is. It's funny because it's so dumb. And then we say 11, 12, 13, but shouldn't it really be 1T1, 1T2, 1T3, 1T4, 1T5, 2D, 2D1, 2D2, 2D3, 2D4, because it's 4 and 40 and it's 6 and 60. Why is it 50? Why is it not 5D? It was something like that. I had some sort of bit, around that, and I was being my theatrical self and all that. And then when I got off the stage, I went over and I sat down at a table with my friends and having a drink. Oh, you were so good. It was good. And then the comic came back and he went back up, and now whether he had planned to be more animated and theatrical in his second set, I don't know, but and I sincerely mean it, because I wasn't the only one that thought this. Even other people were coming up to me afterwards going, he was kind of like imitating you after. Like he saw kind of what worked and then thought maybe I should do that. And I'm like, no, he's a professional. He's not going to do that. He's not going to abandon his shtick. That's what I kept, telling myself.
Is it possible he was an MC?
Maybe.
Because MCs,
maybe
your job is to kind of filter, if you have Stephen Wright, you gotta get the crowd lower and ready for that. So it could have been that. Maybe. I don't think I don't think so. But I mean, this is like 21 years ago. So I don't really remember it in any great detail, but that's, hey, I went off on a side tangent. See, I'm doing it right here. But that's, I think it's really all about just, I think what you see of me on the show is a big part of me, for sure. Are there pros and cons to what it is you do
on YouTube or in?
Well, I guess both, in your professional voice work and YouTube.
I think with YouTube, it's such a fascinating journey. I've had my channel since 2006, but I never really did anything with it. I guess I was one of the first people to have a channel, because I think YouTube was like 05 or something like that when it came onto the scene. But I never really did anything with it. I would upload little Halloween things of me walking around and, the jumpsuit and all that kind of stuff. But I never really did anything with it, really, until about 2017. When it got wind that John Carpenter was back on board. There was going to be a new Halloween movie. Blumhouse was going to be involved. And I needed an outlet to talk Halloween. And it was my girlfriend that, who I've been with for 10 years now. And she was the one that was like, you really got to just kind of go out there and because I was using it. I had no intention on building a channel, starting a YouTube channel. There was nobody on YouTube that, and I don't say this as a slight to anybody, but there was nobody I was watching that like inspired me to do it. It's not like I was like, oh, I want to do that because that's what they're doing. I was I needed, like how some people back in the day would write things down to get it off their chest. That's what I think I needed. And my girlfriend was a big part of the catalyst of that. It's like, you should go out there and just kind of put yourself out there and, you know, just kind of get it out there. So that's what I was doing. I mean, still to this, it's kind of become a thing now, but I was so ignorant, so, yeah, I guess ignorance is the right word, but maybe naive would be better, that at the end of my videos, and I still, and still to this day, I don't say it because now it's kind of become, you know, a thing. But for the first like 2 or 3 years, I would forget to tell people to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I never told anybody. And still to this day, I never tell anybody to subscribe to my channel. And now I think I do it on purpose because now it's kind of, now I can't start, you know. But that goes to show you that I would go, that's great. And, you know, upload to YouTube and walk away and, you know, whatever happened to it, happened to it. But then people started to watch and people started to like, and people started to comment and be like, hey, this guy's talking about stuff that maybe some other people aren't talking about. And, because I was talking about symbolism and cinematic language, and as it relates, you know, as it relates to Halloween and you know, the original intent and all this, and not a lot of people were talking about that stuff. And so maybe it was a fresh perspective. And then I think the thing that I knew where it was like, now people expect something, was when Jamie Lee Curtis came on board. And this is the fall of 2017, I think. And my video got like 5,000 views. I was like, what the fuck? 5,000 views. This is insane. What's going on? This doesn't happen. And I only had like 980 subscribers. And I was like, this, what the hell is going on? You should do one, Dave. I'm like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? So it's been a strange journey, you know, to the YouTube thing. It's interesting because I've spent most of my life behind the camera. So I've enjoyed the anonymity of being a voice actor. People probably heard my voice, you know, for years, but, you know, obviously if your face is not out there, then, you know, you don't associate a face with the voice. So it's been a little strange, an adjustment. I remember when I went to the Halloween convention. And to be fair, it's a Halloween convention. So I don't think this would happen at like just a regular horror con or something, or a con in general. It is Halloween. So I do have to put that asterisk there. But it was really weird walking around the 40th anniversary convention and having people walk up to you every 5 seconds, wanting to get a photo taken with you,
wild.
recognizing you. I mean, and I don't say that again, honest to goodness, even Cecil said that he had to line up to meet me. I didn't have a table. I wasn't a guest there. I was just hanging out in the corner with this line, and Cecil's in line waiting to meet me. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Here's Steve Miner and some guy who talks about Halloween.
Right. Yeah. Well, here's the guy that, but it was just a surreal, weird experience. I think I'd gone over to talk to Sean Clark, and we were shooting the shit, and people were coming up to him naturally, you know, to talk to him and get their photo taken with him. And because I think he was helping to sort of organize and run the con. And of course, he's well known in the horror space. And I was shooting the shit, talking to him. And then of course I was standing still. See, that was the problem. I should have kept moving around the convention. But as soon as I stood still, people started to hone in on me, and then they all started to come over. And that was I wasn't used to that. It was a very surreal and weird experience. And I counted, there were over 110 people that I took photos with that day.
Wow.
I remember that. And of course, that's not a lot if you're actually a guest at the convention, but if you're just a guy walking around, that's a lot of fucking photos. You know what I mean? I think I just spat. So the point I'm making is that the YouTube thing's been an interesting experience to put your face out there and learn about fandom and fans and the, you know, just the lack of nuance and the lack of context that a lot of fans have, and just how people react to things and the different levels of fandom, and it's fascinating to watch. You know, I mean, I literally could have a comment polar opposite of each other right above each, you know what I mean? Have like, I think that's fucking dog shit. And then the one, I love you, Dave, you're so great. It's like, what are they seeing? You know, like it's just two completely ends of the spectrum. And so I really find these things from a sociological perspective really interesting. So I'd say that the pro of YouTube is meeting people like you and meeting people like Cecil and making those connections and friendships and stuff. And then the pros would be the cons would be getting used to the absurdity of the absurdity of fandom, you know, in a lot of ways, I guess sometimes. And I don't mean that as a slight to all fans, but I think even all fans could say, yeah, there's some crazy fans out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, something that frustrates me is when people talk about stuff in film and they don't they don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
I mean, it annoys me every time somebody says pan up, and I'm like, it's a tilt, it's a
Yep.
tilt.
It's a tilt up, it's a ped down. You know, I hear you. I do. I think it's I think part of the internet obviously is a great piece of technology, but with the ease of access to information and what this is, you know, and this is the kind of things that I say on my channel that probably gets me into trouble because people are like, well, that's an arrogant thing to say. And it's like, no, I'm not, it's not personal. It's just, these are observations. And I think the internet, especially YouTube and all that, it's created the illusion impression that everybody's opinion matters. And
Mhm.
the only, I mean, your opinion matters. Everybody's opinion matters to themselves, but there's a difference between an opinion and an informed opinion. And not
Mhm.
that opinions can't be in, you know, not that you know, an opinion is usually one based on emotions and you're shooting from the hip and you're just kind of, you know, of how you feel. And an informed opinion is supposed to be something that is um, void of that because you're just talking about the objective facts.
Mhm.
Now that doesn't mean that, you know, the two can't overlap and you can't have an emotional opinion that is informed, but generally speaking, that's sort of kind of how it goes. And I think very few people, in my estimation, in my experience, when it comes to the business of film, the business of show business, there's very few YouTubers, and there are some that are informed, but there's a lot of people that are not. And so
Mhm.
they'll start saying things or talking about things that are not accurate
Yeah.
to how it works, or and you know, I've often said to people, if you even have a basic understanding of the business of film, of the business of show business, if you have an understanding of how that works, the less, it doesn't mean you won't be upset about it, but the less and less perplexed you will be over the decisions that studios make,
Mhm.
because you'll understand. Well, I understand why they're doing that. You know, I understand why that's been done. And again, I don't mean that as I'm not talking about anybody specific. I've just noticed
Sure.
this in a general sense. There are, whether it's YouTube comments, whether it's Facebook comments, whether it's, you know, somebody in the dark corner of, you know, the YouTube alley, you know, talking their ass off about something they don't know about. Become informed, because um so I've noticed that aspect too. That's tough to deal with,
I,
as
I,
well.
I I think to what you're saying, I think too many people on YouTube try to sound like they know what they're talking about.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
if somebody were to call them on it, they you know, be on ice.
Right.
You know, where, you know, people should just be themselves. And, you know, I liked it for these reasons.
Right.
Not, you know, the pictures were nice. I like the cinematography, and it's like, well,
Right.
there's more than just
Right.
with the shot, that cinematography.
Right.
Just
Right.
just talk about you. Don't worry about being everybody
Exactly.
else.
No, exactly. I always tell people that just be yourself. You know, the best thing you can do if you want to start a YouTube channel is be you. Don't be me. Don't be anybody else. Don't be CP. Don't be Cecil. Don't be Cody. Don't be whoever. You know,
Mhm.
Wham guys. Be yourself, and you know. But at the same time, there's a hard truth. And this is something that I used to teach a 1-day introductory voiceover workshop at the Liaison of Independent Filmmakers here in Toronto for about 10 years. I don't do it anymore, but I used to. And I taught it for I was about 4 or 5 times a year I did this. And I would open with this. And I would say that, of course, this is, but it's true. It's a tough truth, but it's true. And you can expand this to almost anything. You can teach technique, but you can't teach talent. You either have it or you don't.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that you can't get better. That doesn't mean that you can't learn certain techniques or, you know, certain things that can help you get better. But there is no magic red button that can make you a star or make you confident or make you, you know, whoever you admire or look up to. Talent is not something that is learned. You know,
Mhm.
it's a you either have it or you don't. Now, you may have some untapped potential, and therefore you can nurture that and massage that and noodle that, as Bruce likes to say. He said that to me the other day, and I'm like, noodle that? I'm like, that's really good. I like that. I got to use that. So shout out to my buddy Bruce. But you know, and certainly you can see what flourishes, but to just, you know, walk into a booth or to walk on set or to do a YouTube channel and just go, is not something everybody can do, and not everybody has the you know, an engaging personality. You know, not everybody has you know, can connect with an audience.
Mhm.
It's like public speaking. You know, it's a tough truth, but that truth lies in acting, filmmaking, voiceover, YouTube, because it's a visual medium and it's a presentation medium. So if you are going to get into the presentation art, the art of presentation, and you're very introverted, shy, and you know, I mean, it's going to be a struggle, you know, to gain an audience.
Right, right. How do you handle h- being the person that so many people look to as far as your opinion on blank is concerned, and they won't make an opinion until they've heard your opinion?
Do they really? They
Uh,
shouldn't. They shouldn't.
well, I
Don't
mean,
want.
there's a bunch of them out there.
Yeah, I guess so. You know, I've often said I always try to be, you know, I mean, we all have our own bias, of course, over certain things. But one of the things that I preached very early on my channel was, I said, you know, don't come to me looking for me to confirm what you love. You know, come to me looking for how I feel. And then if we feel the same way, that's great. But if I think Halloween 5 is dog shit and you don't take that personally. I don't know who you are.
Right.
And I'm animated and theatrical, so I am going to be theatrical and animated about bashing your favorite movie. It's just, you know, I mean, it's just how it's dog shit. You know, it's how I am. I mean, it's, you know, and if that's like, you don't want to hear me talk that, you know, holy shit, Dave, that I might not be for you. But I've always tried to tell people, you know, yeah, I don't want to, you know, don't come to me to have me confirm what you love, because I'm just going to tell you how I think and how I feel, and I'm going to be animated about it. I'm going to be theatrical about it, and hopefully we'll align. You know, the one thing I do though, and it's funny, you know, people make fun of me for it, but it does help because I've noticed a lot less people, you know, chime in. Is you know, I mean, not so many people make fun of me now, but early on when I would say, you know, generally speaking, for all intents and purposes,
Mhm.
by and large, you know, I found that I would have to do that because we live in a world now where everything is black and white. You know, something's either a 10 out of 10 or it's shit.
Yep.
And if I don't say, you know, if I say something like, well, you know, fans are just generally speaking, fans are just, the lack of nuance that a lot of viewers have, um, you know, they hear me say fans, they think I'm talking about all fans. And if he doesn't say he's not talking about all fans, and he must be talking about all fans. They don't understand to instill nuance on their own, you know. And so I used to get made fun of, not in a fun way, not in a
Mhm.
serious way, but people would, you know, poke fun at it. And I would say, hey, listen, start a YouTube channel, gain a bit of a following, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You know, I mean, I find that I have to put asterisks over certain things, just so people go, oh, okay, okay, okay. So not all. Okay, okay, okay. Oh, okay, 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 okay. You know, because if you don't, you're gonna get, what do you mean the fans are, you know, and it's like, no, not all fans, just, you know, these, or, you know, whatever the case is. And I still do that. But it's helped. It has helped. And I guess it's kind of become part of my shtick now. But I don't know, CP. You know, it's I don't really think about it. I know that there's an expectation. I know people enjoy listening to me talk about, well, Halloween, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you know, I do sort of see it as a little bit of a responsibility to deliver. But I've also made it important, though. I think the thing that I did, which was smart, is I got out ahead of it. I noticed when I first came onto the scene, I noticed what people were doing, you know, with on Cody's channel or on, you know, Wham's channel or, you know, wherever. And I noticed some of the things that the, you know, the commenters were doing. And I sort of got out ahead of it and said, hey, listen, I couldn't care less if you like what I like or not. You know, and I would say, I'd be so blunt about it. And people would be like, well, this guy's fucking arrogant. This guy's just so arrogant, pretentious. This guy, look at him. He's telling me he doesn't care what I think, you know, and I was hoping that people would kind of get what I was saying, you know, is that don't waste your time writing a diatribe of a thesis in the comment section about how I'm wrong or how, you know, because I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, it's don't do that. Don't waste your time and energy about that. Or with that, I should say. So I got out in front a lot with a lot of the ways that I would speak to my audience and viewers, so they knew kind of where I was coming from and what to expect with me. And I did that on purpose because I didn't want to deal with the inevitable onslaught of what do you mean? You know what I mean? And even though I still got it anyway.
Yeah, I tend to tell people, my opinion is right to me. It could be wrong to you. Your opinion could be right to you, could be wrong to me. But you know, if it's right to you, that's the important part. It shouldn't matter what other people think about your opinion because you're the one who's got to sleep with it. So just take it.
Well, that's it. And if it's just an opinion, then it's just an opinion. I mean, if it's an informed opinion based on evidence of facts, and I'm showing you something quantifiable, that might be a bit different. No, it's not called a ped down. It's like, well, no, actually it is called a ped down. You know what I mean? That's a bit different. You know, I'm telling you, Dave, it's not. I say pan. Well, knock yourself out. But so that's different. But if it's something like I like Halloween 5 and you don't, well, you know, I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, it's you know, okay, you like, I sincerely think that's great. If you like, I wish I could like all the Halloween movies. I mean, that must be amazing to be able to like every one that comes out or every Friday movie or every Elm Street movie. I just like them all. I just love it. You know, you get those types of people and it's like, that's amazing. I question their standards in life, but I think it's amazing, you know?
What do you want for dinner? Same thing, just same thing.
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Slop. I don't care. Easy to please. I'll tell you that. Easy to please.
You brought up the power of the internet before. As far as fandom is concerned, do you think maybe we have too much access, especially when in regards to stuff that hasn't happened yet? Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have asked me about Scream 5, and I'm like, guys, we have nothing. We have nothing on it. So what do you want me to say? Oh, okay, it's coming.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think it's exciting because obviously there's a community that's built and fans get really excited to listen to, you know, us talk about certain things and they look forward to it. I mean, it's the new television, you know, is what YouTube is. And these are the new television shows and we're the new television personalities. And so it's people look forward to that and they look forward to tuning in. I for, you know, my 2 Dude show that I do every Monday night, it says, you know, I have people, where are you? Why aren't you doing one? What's going on? Or, oh, you know, I'll get people in the chat room. Sorry, I'm late. And I'm like, that's okay. People say that. Sorry, I'm late, Dave. I'm really sorry I'm late, you know? And I mean, it's cute, you know what I mean? Because I think they generally mean like, oh my God, Dave, you know, is not going to see me in the chat. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but that's okay. You know, so that aspect of it is exciting and builds that community and that love and friendships can be, you know, made out of it. But the ease of access to information sets up expectations to the general movie-going audience. And you know, the vast majority of people don't understand how the business works, the real side of show business. And therefore there are things that they get emotionally attached to that they shouldn't even care about or be bothered with. You know, you're as Salah said in Raiders of the Lost Ark, they're digging in the wrong place, you know, and it's kind of like I'm probably going to get canceled for that now, but I think that's, you know, but hey, context, nuance, if we can instill some context, it's one of my favorite movies. I think Salah would be proud. Forget the guy's name, what's the actor's name? fuck, I forget his name now. But anyway, so they're digging in the wrong place there. But I think that tends to happen. And then there's this obsession that takes over, and everybody thinks that everything matters because there's no compartmentalization. It's just like the slightest little thing, you know, like Jamie Lee Curtis could stub her toe on set and people want me to do a video about it, you know, and you know, there's a lot of things where I'm like, I'm not doing a video. I mean, there are people that will send me things like and I'm sure you get it too. I mean, it'd be things like, can you do a video on, you know, Dr. Loomis's shoelaces? Can you do a video on, you know, and it's like, no, I don't care. I don't, it's so there's no, like, there's, you know, you almost need a screening process, you know. It's like, here's what matters, here's what doesn't, here's what we should care about. But then again, it's so personal, you know, what one person cares about, the other person does not. It's a wild west in a lot of ways. But the ease of access to information and the ease of access to celebrities like never before either is can be problematic and can be interesting. I mean, conventions are a huge business now.
Sure.
And so there's a relatability there. I mean, I can't tell you how, geez, I remember when I went to Buffalo. I told this when we spoke a couple of weeks ago. I went to Buffalo to see a hockey game, and somebody had messaged me on social media angry that I didn't get in touch with them when I was in Buffalo because they live in Buffalo. And I'm like, the hell is it? Like, is this what fucking Brad Pitt's got to deal with or something? Like, I don't know what's going on. And I just was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm there to see a hockey game. So, and that was like 4 years ago, you know, and when I just came onto the scene, and so there's this ease, there's this ownership that I think fans have taken over you as a personality, you as your content. They feel that there's, and again, generally speaking, not everybody, there are some fans out there that feel an ownership over your content and what you talk about. And because we're so accessible, and because we're in their living rooms, and we're on their phones, and we're at their schools, and you know, and so I think there's this idea that they know us, that we're their friends, and we're all hanging out, and I mean, that's a cool thing, but it can be problematic. You know, it can elevate unnecessary and unrealistic expectations.
I have a theory.
If that makes sense. I think I answered that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have a theory. I'm a Star Wars guy. I have a theory that, again, some fans kind of ruined at least episode 9, because it felt like Disney / Lucasfilm, they were reacting to everything that was going on, with the loud voices on the internet, and it kind of bummed me out. I was so excited when Force Awakens came out, and
Same.
by the time Rise of Skywalker came out, I was like, yeah, you know what, you guys ruined this for me. Like, this isn't fun for me now. Thanks.
No, I agree. There's definitely, and again, that's the free flow of information and the ease of accessibility to that information, and people getting online, talking about their opinions, you know, creates an illusion in a lot of ways that there's so many things that don't matter that people think do, and the toxicity is real. It really is. And it happened with Star Wars. I tried to remove myself from it as best I could. I really enjoyed The Force Awakens. I thought it was what it needed to be to get Star Wars back on track. The Last Jedi was the single most disappointing movie-going experience of my life, in my opinion.
I disagree.
I was so disappointed by it. And The Rise of Skywalker for me was what I thought it was going to be. You know, I think it was all it could be. I actually enjoyed The Rise of Sky. For me, I enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker better than The Last Jedi. I mean, I agree with everybody saying, wow, it felt too fast. Felt like, you know, 2 or 3 movies in one. Yep. Yeah, it did. Yeah. And I think that's largely because of the backpedaling of what happened with The Last Jedi and all this kind of stuff. And really, they should have done just 2 more films. is what they should have done to kind of let it breathe and you know, and that doesn't mean it's going to be good, but certainly to give a little more context and make things more believable. So for me, when I walked out of The Rise of Skywalker, I was like, yeah, that's about what I expect. I enjoyed it. It was, you know, whether you like J.J. Abrams or not, he's good at populous, fun, you know, spectacle filmmaking. It was I enjoyed the journey, like I was on a ride. But should this have been this? Could that have been this? Should they have done this? Yes, I agree with that, but I knew I wasn't going to get it. So I don't know, you know, these people walking out of The Rise of Skywalker, in my opinion, going, what did you expect? I mean, it could only be what it was because of how everything was structured. So I actually enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker, funny enough. Not like I did The Force Awakens, but you know, but no, you're right. The toxicity in fandom can ruin a lot of things too. The over emotional sense of ownership over something is astounding. You know, to your point, I remember when the Snyder Cut was released, and I'm not a big superhero guy, but I remember I was, of course, you know, you'd have to be under a rock not to know about, you know, hashtag release the Snyder Cut and all this kind of stuff. And yes, and I remember talking about this on my channel. Well, you should have said, that's not true. The fans won. It's fans win. We can do anything. And you know what you're talking about. And I said, they don't care about you. I said, are you serious? So I said, look, I said, it's not that release the Snyder Cut didn't have an effect in some way. I said, but at the end of the day, I said, there's nothing virtuous about the decision to release the Snyder Cut to you. Yeah, they made you pay for it. They waited till HBO Max was a thing. You know, they waited 2 years of you, you know, because they didn't care. And then a situation arose and something, hey, you know what? We could use the Snyder Cut to fucking get people to sign up for HBO Max. And if you understood the business side of Hollywood, you would understand that I mean, these decisions are made all the time. And it's like, we want more Snyderverse. They're not going to give it to you, you know, because I'm spitting all over the place here. My mouth is so dry because they don't care. And so when, you know, the head of Warner Brothers was like, oh, we heard you. I'm like, oh, shut up. You know, but that's what you say.
Don't let them know that.
Don't let them know that. God, you're going to, you know, but that's what you say, you know. And anyways, the point I'm making is, again, is there is a negative side to it as well, because fandom, they have more access to celebrities than ever before. They have more access to each other than ever before. They have more access to information than ever before, to behind the scenes than ever before, and a sense of entitlement and ownership over the direction of certain things they like, and fucking, because they feel, they might not be realizing this consciously, but they're getting access to intel. Access to intel, you know, it seems like oh, behind this, you know, and they feel like there's this, and then there's a community that's built around that, and confirmation bias. It's a Frankenstein, I think, is what it can be, and it exists in Star Wars. It exists in any fandom. Some are worse than others, but oh yeah, there's a dark side to it as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I am hated by the Halloween fandom.
No, come on. You're not hated.
I'm not liked, so I'll put it that way. It's odd.
BP.
Yeah. It's strange. Not all like you were saying. Not all.
You're gonna start doing it now. You're gonna start doing it.
not all, but you know, I just feel like Jason fans can take a joke every now and again, and if I, God forbid, I make a joke about Halloween, the heat is just so, how dare you? And it's like, dude, you're getting new movies, man. My thing's in court. So like, you're gonna have new stuff. What do you want me to do?
Well,
I'm like,
and the crazy thing is that sometimes I'm like, that's got to be somebody who's like, you know, 17 or 20. And then you find out they're like 40, married with 3 kids, and you're like, what are you doing? Who is this? You fucking piece of shit. And you're like, you know, and then you go to their, you know, profile, and they and most of these types of people don't have anything on their page, but every now and then somebody will, and they have a video of themselves, and you click out and they're like, hi, I'm John, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? What's John doing, running his mouth out? What the hell is he? Seems like a nice guy. What is he doing? I say, you know, if you're over the age of 35 and you're doing this, it's like, what do you do? Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but it's true. It's true what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to touch on something that I guess I just wanted to shoot the shit a little bit about Halloween, because you're a Halloween guy. You recently talked about the line, "Whenever he kills, he transcends," from the trailer.
I did. Yes, I did.
So
filled 90 minutes, baby.
Impressive, by the way, very impressive.
Most impressive, as Darth Vader would say.
As far as the universe is concerned, we're just on Michael Myers and Laurie Strode's third experience together, because we're supposed to forget 2 through Zombie.
Correct.
So wouldn't there be, do you think that there's any chance that Michael Myers is just a serial killer, and Laurie Strode is taking it personally when, you know, she just happens to be in the way?
In this new series, like in the new,
just in general. I mean, like, do you think that by this new storyline, Michael Myers has been sitting in that facility for 40 years, God knows what, when I get out, that Laurie, she's going to get it when I get out.
Yeah. No, I don't think that. What a twist that would be. At the end of Halloween Ends, you find out that it was just Laurie the whole time. She's just gone crazy in her head the whole time. And of course, that would piss everybody off. Sorry, what was the question again?
Is it possible that she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about? Like, he's just a killer, and she thinks that, you know, he's after her, and he...
Well, if they wrote it that way, I think I don't think that's the direction they're going to go, though. No, I think you know, one of the great things about the original intent of the Michael Myers character is that, you know, and God, I say this all the time, is that ambiguity, you know, that mystique of the character that you don't get with Freddy or Jason or Chucky or Ghostface or Leatherface or Leprechaun. I mean, I don't even know if you get it with almost anybody else. There is an unknown factor to Michael Myers from that first movie. And I truly believe that has to be preserved. The integrity of the enigma of the character has to be preserved. I think it's okay to write a story where, you know, you may be on the cusp, like the characters, and through the characters, the audience then may be on the cusp of finding out maybe what that is. Like, but you never do. Because I think that's what makes Michael work is that mystery, that mystique that follows him everywhere, that cloud of mystery that follows him, which is the why, you know, pure evil, why, you know, what is it, whatever. The second you make sense of that, the second you give an answer to that, you're going to alienate half your audience. If you don't do anything, then psychologically, everybody is, I mean, unless you are hoping for an answer, but everybody's satisfied because we all go to our own place of what we think it could be. Nobody goes to their own place of shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, if I might think it's something different than you, but we're both going to go to our own versions of what we think is kind of cool, what it could be. You know what I mean? The second they say, well, it's Jimmy Bob, who's been doing it the whole time, whatever, I'm going to go, yeah, Jimmy Bob. And you're going to be like, Jimmy Bob, you know, and then now you've, you know, now you segregate your audience, you know, into this vitriol, and I'm going to have to deal with it. And but I think so I think it has to remain because it's the foundation for which he was built. You don't need to know why. The characters can be like, you know, why is he this? What's it? We got to find out, do this, you know, and that's part of the excitement. That's part of the, but you never do, you know? I guess
my point is, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis is a name. If you go by 2018, she drives to the facility in the beginning, and it's Sanheim who brings Michael to her. Sartain, excuse me. What did I say? Sanheim? Yeah. Sartain.
He was the guy that was going to be the guy, but then they just got rid of him. Yeah.
So like it's plausible that, you know, it's just happenstance that they caught up with one another, because I mean, she went to him and then he was brought to her. So
for sure, it's very clear that that's what it was. I mean, because you go back to the original intent of the character, Laurie Strode was not related to Michael Myers in that movie. There was no intention to do that. And I've said this before on my own channel, you know, the end of the original Halloween ends with Michael not there over the balcony, not to set up a sequel. It's there to bring the arc and the message of the whole movie home. Laurie has a beginning, a middle, and an end to her arc, even in that movie. She doesn't believe in the boogeyman. You know, Laurie, what's the boogeyman? Tommy, there's no such thing. You know, and then by the end of the movie, she's like, it was the boogeyman. As a matter of fact, it was. And so she has her own mini arc in the film, and it's this Hitchcockian 90-minute Twilight Zone episode. I mean, that's really what that was. And Carpenter had no interest in continuing it on. But of course, you know, money. And so he did, and then he had to make up a reason. Well, if he's going to keep going, what's the reason? I guess they're related, you know, and then so he and that's what he did. Right. And then, of course, you know, and it worked. And a lot of people like that. It does work. I mean, if you are going to progress it, and I enjoy part two, I can watch them both together, and I can watch them. I can watch part one in a vacuum as well. I can watch it on its own as its own thing, but certainly I can watch them together. And it worked. So, you know, there was no, when they decided to make a sequel to the original, they went back to that intent that he's not, you know, there is no rhyme or reason for doing what he's doing. He is like the wind. He's a force of nature. You know, he's a predator. It's instinctual. It's, you know, but that's even making too much sense of it, you know, but that's the ballpark of where he lives. There is no rhyme or reason, you know, even in the most rudimentary sense of good or evil, right for death, right or wrong, you know, and that's what it's all about. And all you need to know about Michael Myers is in that 30-second speech from Dr. Loomis. You know, that's all you need to know. You know, I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left, no reason, no conscience, no understanding, even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and the 7 trying to keep him, because I realized to leave behind those eyes purely, simply evil. Done. That's it. That says everything you need to know. And you know, when you go through it, you're like, yeah, that's right. You know, there's nothing there. He's a force of nature. And so they went back to that. They were supposed to go back to that. They went back to that in Halloween 18. And for the most part, I think they delivered on that. Although Halloween 18 to me was a good modern day horror movie. I just didn't think it worked very well as a Halloween movie. So I'll be curious to see, although I do know a lot about what happens in the new film. But that is something that, yeah. So to your point, to play on that idea that he's just a man, he is just a man, but there's the unknown factor that's there. There's always that asterisk beside him. He's there and not there. How can he do that? How's that possible? He's not literally dematerializing in front of your eyes. You know, it's not that kind of supernatural. It's just things that make you go, you know, and that's what should be played into his character. That's the kind of, and that's what I liked about that, you know, no man could survive the fire and, you know, all that. And, you know, the more he kills, the more he transcends. That should just be a line. It shouldn't be a plot device of now we're going to figure it out what that transcending is. No, don't do that. That's a Loomis line. That's just letting you know that's that unknown is still a part of his character. And that should remain there, you know, but he's still he's flesh and blood, you know, he was birthed. I think anyway. That makes sense. I know I'm rambling, but hopefully that made sense.
No, it didn't make sense.
Okay. All right. All right. Me rambling? No.
So, so you were pleased with 18, not pleased?
You know, I mean, it was,
Intent?
I thought it was, listen, especially just making my own film. And that's a short film of $64,000. Making movies is tough. And you know this.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you can come out even half successful, I mean, that's a win. I mean, even getting a film done is a win. And nobody
Yep.
goes out to make a bad movie.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, all right, we're going to go out, we're going to fuck this shit up, man. You know,
Mm-hmm.
nobody does that, you know? So, you know, kudos to what they did and what they attempted to do. And you know, to be fair, it's better than almost every one of the goddamn sequels from the original, in my opinion. I mean, I like it better than 5 and 6 and H2O and Resurrection, and I enjoy it better than Rob Zombie's
I agree.
Halloweens. So you know, they succeeded in that regard. I just think that when you are making a direct sequel to the original film, there is a certain level of aesthetic continuity and character continuity that I think should have been brought over into this film that was largely not there. I don't think it was a very suspenseful film. I don't think there was a lot of moments for Myers to shine in terms of the there, not there. I mean, there's the scene with him in the motion sensor lights when he's talking, when he's standing looking at Oscar. That's probably the most Myers we get. But one of the big moments in the movie when he kills Vicky from the closet, that was destroyed in the marketing. Now that's not the fault of David Gordon Green or even Blum. I mean, that would be Universal's marketing department. But certainly having seen that, I mean, no, we didn't see her die, but she likely does. And so we know she's going to die. We know when she's going to die. We know how she's going to die. We haven't even seen the movie yet. I've always said that I think, and she just opens the closet and there he is with the light on. How I would have handled that scene, and maybe they shot a couple of different ways, I don't know, but I would have had her go over to the closet, the same thing, open the closet to turn on the light instead of to turn off the light. And
Oh, yeah.
and I think that would have, because now you're playing into the DNA, you're playing into the Michael's, because it's all for him. This is, the setup is all for him. That's what you're doing. And she goes over and two things can happen. She can either open the closet and it can be a bit deeper. You can create the illusion that it's a bit of a deeper, maybe a walk-in. And she turns on the light and there he is, rather than just opening the door. Or she goes to turn on the light and the light doesn't work. And she's like, Julian, I guess the bulb was out. Do your mom and dad have any, like, you know, extra light bulbs or whatever? And she turns around to talk to him and Julian's in the bed, whatever. And then behind her, slowly emerging from the darkness, is the mask. And it comes out like this. And so you're letting this moment breathe. You're playing into what the shape does, what Michael does. And it's a moment that you know, is like, yeah, this is, you know, it's like, you know, and it's kind of slowly, or maybe you kind of see it there and you're like, is that, but then it cuts away and it cuts back to her and you don't. And it's like, how the fuck's that possible? He's in the closet. You know what I mean? How's that possible? But then all of a sudden he attacks her or something, you know, like, where was he? Was he darting about, you know, just play with it more, just to kind of play with that environment more. I'm getting all excited, CP. You're getting me all revved up. But that's something that I watch and I go, that is character continuity. That's something that's his MO. That's what he would do. He's a cat. He's a predator. He stalks. It's not that it didn't work. She goes over the closet, clunk, clunk, clunk. There must be somebody's foot in the way. Opens the closet. There he is. You know what I mean? But it's like, okay, but can we do it better? Can we do it better? Can we do it more suspenseful? You know, I mean, as soon as, you know, Julian said, can you go, you know, turn off the light or whatever, or close the closet door? Yeah, we already know what's going to happen. It's like, oh, here it comes, you know? And so there was no, and even though you would still know, oh, something's going to happen, you want to give a false sense of security. Like in It's Me, Billy, for example. That's all right. I'm plugging my own movie, folks. There's the scene with Justine in the bed. And, you know, we were so proud of, we worked so hard to, and I get it's a bit of a different subgenre, not quite full on slasher, but we worked so hard to craft that shot because, you know, we give that false sense of, you know, he comes into the room, right? We see Billy, you know, he's coming into the room. Oh, what's going to happen? The music is swelling, whatever. She sits up in bed. Look, he's not there. And then she lies down, she rolls over, and instead of building a music swell again, we're just silent. We're completely quiet, and we're just slowly pushing in on her face. And there's nothing. And if you listen very carefully, and you might have been able to hear it because you had the headphones on, if you listen very carefully, you can hear the footsteps of Billy creaking on the floor, and it's just quiet, letting the moment breathe and building that suspense. And I think that largely, you got that in the original Halloween. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe not exactly like that, but you got moments where there was that MO, and I think there was an opportunity to do that in Halloween 18. So love the score. Thought the score was great. But another thing too, when Andy Matichak, Allison was being chased, there's that great Carpenter score. Boom. It's the shape hunts Allison, I think it's called, or whatever. But it lasts for like 15 seconds. And then she, let that breathe, have her run down the street, run into a neighbor's backyard, hide in some laundry sheets or something. And she's hiding and she's looking for the shape and she can't see him. And then, POV with the shape stalking. I mean, this could just come down to budget and time and days and shooting, and they just don't have time to do all that. And I, respect that. But those are two examples of some of the things that I wanted to see, because it feels like Halloween. It feels that's what the shape does. That's his MO, rather than just, opening a closet door and there he is.
What would these next two movies need to do to wow you, to get you impressed?
Well, I know a fair bit about the next one that's coming. So I'm at a point where I know that how I would shoot a Halloween movie is not how they're shooting the Halloween movies. And I'm okay with that, because listen, I'm 42 years old. It's 2021. I get it. I understand it. I mean, it's not lost on me why you kind of have to, so for me now, it's about balance. And I think if you balance the old with the new, then I think you're going to, I can walk away going, yeah, I get it. Okay, that was nice. I enjoyed that. I have a feeling, although it's going to be a high body count and carnage and mayhem and blood and gore. I mean, we know this. We know what's going to happen. If there's a bit of balance, if there's the DNA that's there, I think I can walk away going, having a good time, having fun. Like, this is great, man. Tearing shit up, and whatever. But as long as I can see a little bit of emerging from the darkness, and as long as I can see some stalking and lurk, balance, I don't know how that's going to feel, because, obviously you're combining Friday the 13th then with Halloween. And that might be an interesting conundrum, an interesting dichotomy that might be, how is that going to feel? Or is it going to feel right? Is it going to feel weird? Too much of a hybrid? Or is it going to feel right? Is it, that's what we need to do with Michael Myers. We can't go all the way back here because we got these teenagers that are going to fall asleep. And we can't go all the way over here because we got these, 35, 40-year-old people that are going to be like, mostly me. So, maybe there's a way we can noodle it and kind of, give something for everybody. And I think if they do that, if they balance it out in that way, or maybe they're going to balance it out with the three movies. Maybe Halloween Kills is the Jason movie, but Halloween Ends, they pull it back and it becomes, something else, because they've already had their second big gory act. And then when you watch it in succession in all three, you see the balance. That's entirely possible as well. So, but I'm under no unrealistic expectations. I know what this is going to be, and entertain me. Don't remove the DNA completely, and I think I'll have a good time.
How do you need it to end?
Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends?
Ends.
Well, it's a great question, because for me, I want this to be it. And I know people say, well, you're not a Halloween fan. No, it's because I'm a Halloween fan. I want this to end. It's inevitable that if this thing goes on and on and on, that we will find ourselves right back where we started. The whole purpose of erasing 10 movies from the franchise is because of that exact thing. And so if they continue, if it's Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, Halloween Returns, Halloween again. I don't know.
Halloween, no, seriously this time.
Yeah, Halloween, no, seriously. You're going to run into the same problem. You're going to become the very thing you were trying to avoid by doing the 2018 movie. All good stories have, and listen, I understand it's a business, and if this continues to make bank, they're going to continue to make them.
Yeah.
But in a perfect world, all stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there's nothing wrong with stories ending and feeling. It's not that they end; it's how they end. But I don't want to see Halloween Ends, and I refer to my sequel concept idea video that I uploaded a couple of years ago, long before we even knew there was going to be 2 extra movies, where I had, it's like 2 hours long, and you want to talk about me talking, and I go and I have music, and it's very theatrical, of course, cinematic, and I walk through my sequel concept idea for a sequel to 2018, where it ends with a sequel while they're doing 2 more. But anyway, so I refer to that, and how I ended my sequel concept was I ended it on a philosophical note, because I think with a character like Michael Myers, you can do that because of the ambiguity and the anonymity, the mystique that surrounds him. I don't think, like, you're either going to have him walk off into the ether and say he wins. Oh, he's still out there. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, well, that's not really an ending. Did Halloween really end then? Or you're going to end it in a way where it's like a false ending, where it's like he's dead and then his eyes open, or he comes out of the closet and it cuts to black and the credits roll. And it's like, don't do that. Please don't do that. I think if you end it on a philosophical note, you're going to please more people. And the funny thing is, whether people liked my sequel concept idea video or not, which has, I think, over 50 or 60,000 views right now. The one thing, there were certain creative decisions that I talked about in there that maybe some people didn't agree with. One of the things people didn't, which I thought they would, one of the few things people didn't harp on was the ending. And I think it's because, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's because I paid careful attention to ending it on a philosophical note that still leaves the bigger question intact. And how it really is, in a nutshell, was I created a situation where the only way to, in my sequel, I had Laurie and Michael die together. That's bringing it full circle. That goes back to the original film about fate and bring it full circle. And Laurie at some point realizes the only way to do this is to go out with him, whether she realizes it's consciously or it's instinctual. It takes place at the Myers house in Judith Myers' bedroom. And I use fire. And some people were like, you're going to use fire again. But again, it's how I use it. And it's not that they're setting Michael on fire. It becomes a byproduct of the circumstance of what happens. And so previously what happens is there's a big chase scene or something. And I think Laurie and no, Brackett is killed in my concept idea. So I think it's Laurie and her daughter or something. And they what's so fascinating is they during my concept, they find, they're going door to door to try and find like people, and Michael's murdered all these people in these houses and shit like that. He's on a murder spree. There's a thunderstorm, there's lightning. I want to utilize that and all that with the lightning and the flashing and all that. And they discover a young teenage girl who is hiding in a closet in one of the homes. Her family has been murdered, and she's hiding in a closet in one of the homes, and she strikes she bears a striking resemblance to Judith Myers. And what Laurie decides to do is, it sounds awful, but to almost use her as bait. She feels that if she can use this young girl who bears a similar resemblance to Judith, she can somehow lure him to his old house. And there's details that I'm forgetting, but that's sort of the catalyst that, and then they're in the cop car, and the cop car crashes through the Myers house. The gasoline is leaking from the cop car. That's what ignites the fire. And I think they're upstairs in Judith Myers' bedroom, and Michael somehow gets into the bedroom, I think, and then Laurie is there to attack him, but then the room gets engulfed in flames. They both go up in flames, and you know, presumably die. Now, there's a lot of details. Now, some people who are listening to this interview might be thinking, that's what that fucking, you got to go listen to my video and kind of see how I all lay it out. I do my best to try and connect it, right, to bring it full circle and to make it more philosophical and more symbolic, rather than something that is sort of pedestrian. And so what ends up happening is that Laurie and Michael die together, and the Myers house burns to the ground, and their bodies are found and they're dead. And I think the film ends with Tommy Doyle standing at the Myers house, and all that's left is just this foundation. It's all gone. Maybe it's a week later or something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing there, and I think he might be standing there with Lindsay Wallace, I think, if I didn't kill her off in my movie, I can't remember. But he's standing there, and of course, again, full circle, right? That's a nice tie-in. And they're thinking about her, you know, and they're looking at her, and they're shedding a tear and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously I forget what happens. I think they walk away, and there's this crane shot, which would be a drone shot probably, and we back up like this, and we see the neighborhood, and we see Tommy and Lindsay walking down the street together, and we see the foundation and the ruins of the Myers house, and we're backing up, and then you hear, instead of just cutting to black, you hear Dr. Loomis's voice, and you hear his voice from the TV cut of the original Halloween, which isn't officially canon per se, but they certainly could take this and make it canon. And there's a line in the TV cut that I absolutely love. And that line is, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something to the effect of, "You think you fooled them, haven't you, Michael? But not me." And then you cut to black, and you let the credits roll, and you let the audience stew over that. What does that mean? You know, obviously Dr. Loomis is dead, but it's using that line as symbolism. What does that mean? Do you know what I mean? What are they saying? You know, what is that like? And I think that's, and I've got a lot of compliments on that, because I think it feels, because you're not, it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel chintzy in my estimation. It feels like it's better than him coming out of the closet, his eyes opening, him walking off into the ether. It feels more, and you could always make a sequel if you had to, but I mean, it feels like we've brought it home, and we end it on that. Or even Tony Michael, the guy I do Two Dudes with, said, you know, you could end it on that, or you could end it on Loomis's speech. You know, I met this 6-year-old child, this blank, pale, emotionless, you know, whatever it is, you know, you could even end it on that. But the reason why I chose "You think you fooled them, haven't you, Michael, but not me," is it casts the seed of doubt. And that's what you want. You want to end it on a philosophical note. It's like, what is that? You know, evil never dies. You know, what does that mean? Does that mean there's going to be something else someday? Is it like, what is that? Does that mean Michael is still alive, or what, you know, what, but I don't, you know, but you don't see him. There's no, and the movie ends, the credits roll, and what you don't hear is his breathing. You don't hear his breathing, because you hear his breathing at the end of the first credits. You hear his breathing at the end of Halloween 18. You'll probably hear his, well, it depends. I don't know what's going to happen, but you may hear his breathing at the end of Kills, maybe not, but you don't have his breathing. I think that would be cool, to have his breathing, no breathing. You know what I mean? And then you think about that. You're like, oh, again, that's cinematic language. And you know, people may pick up on that consciously or not. But when you know what to look for, and you know, and that doesn't mean that my ideas couldn't evolve and change and kind of tweak this or that or whatever, or take that out and put that in or whatever. But that's the overall concept of how I think ends needs to end. You need to end it symbolically, philosophically, make the audience, make it matter, you know, bring it home. Don't just kill Laurie, or, you know, have him get locked up again. You know what I mean? I mean, don't do that. You know, let's bring the sucker home, and let's make the audience leave the theater going, wow, man, that was deep. Wow, that was good. Yeah, did you guys like that? That was pretty fucking good. Hey, let's go watch it again. You know what I mean? Like that's what you want to do. So that's how I would end Halloween Ends.
What? Why do you think Halloween is the one franchise that seems to depend on having a counter? There's always a good. It's whether it be Laurie or Loomis in each of the Halloween movies. Yeah, I don't think there's. I don't. Yeah, I don't think there's a movie that neither is in. If Loomis isn't in it,
Well,
Laurie is.
Halloween
And
Resurrection, she's in like the first 10 minutes and then she's gone.
she's still in it.
But she's still in it. That is true. Even though she makes out with her brother, she's still in it. But again, you know what I mean? Luke, Leia, Michael, Laurie, whatever. It's all in the fam. At least they're keeping it in the fam. Sorry, what was the question again? About the
is there some reason that they depend on that counter?
Well, I think it probably because the foundation of Michael and Halloween has everything to do with good versus evil. So, you know, you have Michael, who's supposed to be the epitome of evil. And then you have, you know, Laurie Strode or Dr. Loomis, which is, you know, the good, you know, it's the antithesis of evil. So there's, and you know, you don't really get, you could have gotten that if they had done the films differently, but you don't really get that with Friday or Elm Street. And it's the constant is what it is. You don't get the one constant. You do get obviously good in Elm Street. I mean, you know, obviously it's Nancy, and then it's Jesse, and then it's kind of Nancy and the Dream Warriors again, and then it's Alice, and you know, or Alice, excuse me, and then in Friday it's, you know, it's Alice, I think is the first one, right? And then Ginny, and then Chris, and then, you know, whatever. You do get the good guy, you know, in the movie, but you don't have that constant, the one constant.
Not a recurring character.
Not a recurring.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think with that also helps, funny enough, I think it has helped the series actually, because you create emotional attachment, you create nostalgia. There's just, you know, you create some sort of sense of continuity with that. And I think there's, you know, it's that evil versus good versus evil. And Laurie is that they become symbols of the much larger sort of philosophical players that they are. You know, they are the representation of good versus evil, and Michael is definitely the, you know, there is that connotation to him for sure.
How do you feel about the or this modern day trilogy where they have these tertiary characters that seem to have bigger roles? Like from the trailer, there's somebody that didn't even have a speaking role in 2018, and other things like that. What if they tried doing some sort of Conjuring type deal where it's a Halloween cinematic universe where
I'd be open to that. I think, you know, nearly 40 years ago, 39 years ago now, because I think Halloween 3 was 82. You know, the word, and of course there was no internet, there was nothing. I mean, the idea of having an anthology theatrical film series was not common. And even the word anthology, you know, wasn't a thing. And back then, you know, I mean, there were people, I mean, there were people, I mean, unless you were reading Fangoria or, you know, something else, you would have no idea that when you walked into the theater to see Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, that it didn't have anything to do with Michael Myers. You know, there had to have been a selection. I mean, I was only 3, but there had to have been a selection of the population that went in going, what, or walked out going, what the hell, you know, and there obviously would have been some that got it. But I think now, and for maybe the last decade or so, I think fans, because of the internet, because of the ease of access to information, because of the understanding, and, you know, because of the ease of access to information, you can piss fans off, but you also allow them time to get used to something.
Mhm.
And so they can be pissed off at first, but then it always blows over, and they're always going to go see it. It doesn't matter. You know, they could say, we're doing a Star Wars movie on Jar Jar Binks. You know what? People would go see that. There'd be somebody that I wouldn't. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe I would. But the point I'm making is that I think Anthology now is open for another try. And I think with Halloween, I would end the Michael Myers story, the one that is connected to the 1978 original, with Halloween Ends. And then I would give it a bit, let it breathe, and then look at how I mean, maybe you do a direct sequel to Halloween 3. Maybe you reboot Halloween 3. Maybe you just remake it. I know there are a lot of people that love Halloween 3 and would consider remaking it blasphemous. I'm open to that. I think it's it's okay, but I think there's a lot of untapped potential. I think you can make the movie better today. And I would be open to that, but I'd be open to a sequel to that. You could even take something like Old Charlie Bowles, you know, the story that the graveyard keeper tells Dr. Loomis in the original Halloween, which is nothing but just a throwaway story to get two characters from A to B. You could actually do something with that. You know, I remember over in what does he say? I remember in Russellville, Old Charlie Bowles, one night he kissed his wife and his two children goodbye, and he went out to get a hacksaw, and he went out to the garage to get a hacksaw. When he came back in, he kissed his wife and his two children goodbye, and then he proceeded to. And then Dr. Loomis interrupts him. Where are we? Oh, we're right over here. And he never goes back to it. And I'm thinking to myself, well, there's a movie that could be your next big slasher. You know, Old Charlie Bowles. And was he talking about Old Charlie Bowles because he was old, or was he 30? And that's that old Charlie Bowles. You know, I mean, how was he refer? I don't know. Maybe he was a younger guy. You know, not necessarily. You know, but you know, you could do that. You could, and I don't know if it would do well theatrically. Maybe Halloween then moves to streaming. You know, maybe you start an anthology series, kind of like what you've just done with Fear Street, but you do it with Halloween, and you create stories connected to the Halloween universe. So you know, maybe you see a Haddonfield newspaper, maybe somebody's got to go to Haddonfield to go to the bank. You know what I mean, or something. So you connect it. You know, you work on that nostalgia. Maybe somebody's having coffee at the table and they open a Haddonfield newspaper or a community local newspaper that factors in 2 or 3 different towns or something, and you open it up and it says Michael Myers dead, or you know, whatever it is. However they end Halloween Ends, maybe that's how you open the next film, but the next film is about Charlie Bowles, or you know, whatever it is. I think there's an opportunity to do that. I think the mistake, I mean, they don't give a shit what I think. I mean, if Halloween Kills and Ends makes $200 million each at the box office, Michael's coming back. So, you know, it really doesn't matter. But I'm speaking about, like, you know, in artistic integrity in terms of not letting the series slip away again.
Well, The Conjuring's doing it really well. I mean, they're making money and they're kind of spreading out a bit, whether it be the Nun, Annabelle, The Conjuring itself. Am I missing one?
The Nun, Annabelle, Conjuring. I heard that. What was that one? La Llorona or La Llorona?
Oh, The Curse of La Llorona.
That was supposed to be part of the Conjuring universe.
Okay.
I think it was. I haven't seen it, but I think it was. But you're right. You could do something like that. And when you branch out and do an anthology series, look, some are going to be really good, some are not going to be so good. But I think there's so much more that you could tell. If Halloween 3 proved anything, it proved that you can tell more fucked up, creepy stories around the holiday of Halloween.
Yeah.
So why not take advantage of it and let Michael breathe for a bit? The last thing you want to do, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. One day, you might be able to get away with kills. Maybe you'll get away with ends. Fuck, maybe you'll get away with whatever happens after ends. But there's going to be that moment. There's going to be that movie. There's going to be that moment where we go, oh no. You know, it's happened. We're back. You know, and oh no. You know, and you don't want to do that. You know, you don't want to do that. So I'm all for exploring the anthology and maybe even a series. I mean, that's what I talked about Cecil with too, even with Elm Street. You know, maybe that's what you do with Elm Street. You know, there's a lot of time to breathe there. There's a lot of time to nurture the backstory of Freddy and build those characters and build that. universe. And then maybe by the end of season 1, that's when, you know, you tease that burned Freddy is coming. You know what I mean? Like maybe you do something like that, you know? I don't know. I think there's a lot of streaming definitely has to be in the conversation for anything now because of, you know, you have so much more time to develop characters, develop storylines, and really nurture something that could be really special.
Yeah. Walking Dead has kind of taught us that you can have some horror elements and still fill out some characters and
That's
give a
right.
shit and maybe space things out a little too much, but
Yeah.
I
Well, I mean,
digest.
this might be an awkward or a yeah, like an awkward comparison, but you know, you look at Cobra Kai, and you know, I mean, who the hell thought there was more to tell in Karate Kid universe? I mean, let's be honest, right? There's not a Karate Kid. Give me a break, Karate Kid. Are you fucking kidding me? Holy shit, it's one of my favorite shows. I'm like this, and I wasn't even a big fan of the movie. I mean, I like the movie, obviously. I saw it when I was a kid, but it's not like I was like all Karate Kid all the time. The show's fucking, you know, it obviously it's a little spoofy, it's a little satirical. But it's fun. It's a good watch, and they've played it out really well. They've nurtured that, you know, they're drip feeding you the characters and the moments that you want to see. And it's told really, really well. You know, so you use the principles of those things and you bring it over to something like a Halloween or an Elm Street. There might be something there. Obviously, it didn't work so well for Scream, but I mean, you know, I haven't seen much of that TV series, but there could be a number of reasons why that failed. But I think there definitely is the potential to nurture, especially in Elm Street, for sure. There's something about Freddy and Elm Street that I think might be ripe for streaming.
Yeah. How do you feel the pulse for horror is these days?
Um, I think horror is always going to be there. Obviously, it's people love to be scared. You know, there's been an evolution of horror, especially over the last uh number of years. You know, we seem to be in the supernatural psychological phase now.
Yeah.
There's so many different subgenres to horror. And so I think when we talk about horror, we have to talk about sort of what's our measuring stick and what specifically are we talking about. I think horror as a genre is as alive today as it's ever been.
Mhm.
I think it's more successful today than, or just as successful today than it's ever been.
Sure.
Because obviously when a movie makes a lot of money, that's not it can be, but it's not an indication of quality. It's an indication of that a lot of people went to see it.
Mhm.
The question is not how many people went to see it. The question is how many of those people that went to see it liked it. And obviously you can't get your money back when you don't like a movie.
Yeah.
So the box office total doesn't factor in. It doesn't mean a movie was good. It can. I mean, if there's a lot of repeat watch, it
Mhm.
certainly can mean that. And horror movies generally make a lot of money, or at least make back their budget, because
Yeah. They're all cheap.
they're all cheap. They're all cheap to make, you know, and you know, you spend $5 million on a horror movie. If you market it well and it looks intriguing, even if it's not very good, it's bound to make at least 30 million at the box office. So I mean, you know, there you go, right? And studios, they're quick bucks. It's a genre that a lot of filmmakers cut their teeth on, because their studios can take risks with horror movies and up and coming filmmakers at very little cost to them in the big picture, right? I mean, I'm likely to get a horror movie, not likely the next Star Wars movie. So it's and that makes sense. I mean, I would do the same thing, and since I love horror, that's fine with me. I would be okay with just living in that world. So there's a lot of factors. I think it's alive and well, and I think it's flourishing. I think where, for me as a fan and as a filmmaker, I wish, and I think this is maybe a little selfish, but I wish more people appreciated. I wish the more intelligent horror films, and I guess they are starting to get the recognition a little bit, which is nice, but more of the more not the run of the mill pedestrian, you know, very surface level
The
horror.
A24 horrors, is that what you're referring to? The Ari Aster type stuff?
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I really enjoy those films.
Mhm.
And I appreciate, I really enjoyed Hereditary a lot, actually. I thought it was beautifully shot.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed, I liked Midsommar. I didn't like it as much as I liked Hereditary.
I agree.
But again, that wheelhouse, right? Like
Mhm.
more of, but then again, I mean, if you were to oversaturate that, then that would become, we've seen this, over and over again. So maybe it's because we're not seeing a lot of it, that it is intriguing and seems fresh. But I truly believe, and I've always believed, that blood, guts, and gore may be gross. And listen, I only speak for myself, and sure, it's scary. I mean, it's scary if I was to walk in on my best friend chopped up. Yeah, that's scary. Oh my God, but in terms of seeing it in a movie, I don't particularly find that stuff scary. When I watched the first Terrifier film, holy
Wow.
crap, I watched that. I slept like a baby. It didn't affect me, but certainly I remember thinking, wow, they went there, they did that.
Mhm.
So there's that kind of horror, which is a little more on the exploitation side.
Right.
And then there's more of and talking like this sounds like, and I understand, to the average person, it might sound like I'm being pretentious, or I'm a bit, elitism, hello. And I don't mean it like that, but certainly as I get older, and as all through my, I mean, listen, I love a good slasher, dumb popcorn fart movie, like
Mhm.
anybody. Sure, I can do it for sure. But as I've gotten older, I find that I'm really enjoying being challenged psychologically, and the nuance, and the more intelligent horror films that really tap into your psyche, because that, to me, is what really is scary. And I would love to see more of that, more psychological horror films that really are creepy, and really tap into the psychology, or the audience's psyche. Because, and I would love to make, I mean, that's sort of what we tried to bring a little bit to It's Me, Billy. Now, obviously, Black Christmas, first and foremost, is what it is. I mean, it's a creepy guy on the phone going, all this stuff. I mean, it's not a lot of, but there is a psychological component to it. And we tried to bring that with Billy, in the sense of, it's nuanced, it's a slow burn. We want you to care about the characters, play with light and shadow and things like that. It's not a modern day slasher film, per se. And so I really appreciate that kind of horror, because an audience tends to experience it all the same way. If we're in the theater, if there's 100 people in a movie theater and you're watching a psychological horror film, one that's really good, everybody is going to be scared the same way. That doesn't mean that we're all going to go to the same place. I'm going to go to maybe this place, you're going to go to maybe that place, but we're all experiencing the feeling, the emotional reaction. We're all experiencing it the same way. When you show somebody something, and eventually you have to show something, but if you are showing something too soon, then you again run the risk of alienating your audience too soon. That some people are going to go, "Oh my God, that's so scary," and other people are going to go, "Lame." You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so it's I think playing more in the psychological realm, and diving into that more is my interest, and where my pulse is when it comes to horror. I really, really love a good psychological horror film.
I I agree. I hope that is the direction we go in, because there was that torture porn phase where it was just like, guys, is this it? Is this
Well,
all
and
right?
yeah, that started with, of course, Saw, and then
Mhm.
of course all the Saw sequels, and then Hostel as well, and I really enjoyed the first Saw film. I mean, it was
Oh,
fresh, it
sure.
was new, it was. But by the time you get to 5 and 6, it's like I'm not, it's just, do you want to play a game? No, I don't. I don't want to play no fucking game anymore. You know what I mean? It just becomes sort of like it's kind of how I felt with Elm Street. Whereas what I really loved about Saw was it felt, and it's not that you can't enjoy watching the sequels and the outlandish traps and things that people
Sure.
get involved in, but what sort of threw me off with Elm Street as the series went on was, number one, Freddy became a comedian,
Mm.
solely a comedian.
Mhm.
Understandably, Robert didn't want to sit in the makeup chair for 9 hours. Okay, I get it. And of course, they were half doing his makeup. I mean, his makeup started to look more and more like a mask or bubblegum as the series went on, especially when you get to Freddy's Dead. And but the thing I love about the original Elm Street so much, and obviously you get, budgets, I get that, but was Freddy was coming to their, like, it felt very grounded. The dreams felt like real dreams.
Mm.
Very, there weren't these outlandish theatrical sets and crazy things happening, and it just felt grounded. It felt like Freddy was coming to their world and playing in their world rather than going to his world. Although I understand that the conundrum is, if you're making sequel after sequel after sequel, you can't just be doing the same thing over again. You have to expand, and you gotta do what you gotta do. But that's what I didn't like about it, was it just became more hokey, and Freddy became like a carnival barker, and it just was like, step right up and you're on a ride. And it wasn't scary anymore. It was a fluffy dream on Elm Street, not a nightmare on Elm Street. And so I didn't really, and I find that the more it's what I love actually about the first Friday the 13th. I know that is, people don't really like that movie a lot. But I really enjoyed that first film. I really enjoyed the first four. But that first film, because of the psychological component to it. I mean, Jesus, there's what's her face in the cabin and it's raining outside. Help me. It's like, what the fuck? And just the idea of knowing that you're at a campsite alone, no children are there yet.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fucking kid out in the rain, in the dark. Help me. Are you kidding me? In the middle of fucking nowhere. I love that scene. I love it. I love that scene. It's so great. There's a psychological component to that Friday the 13th film. It's not a psychological film, but I mean, it's got that little, just that little something there that I'm like, oh, I like that. That's kind of creepy. That's kind of creepy. I like that. Obviously it dwindled away as the series went on, but
no, he's grown up now. He's
that's
all
right.
grown up.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's it. No, he's grown up. And it's sort of like a whodunit. I mean, obviously, you have no way of knowing because they don't even introduce you to Pamela until the end of the movie. But it's that kind of whodunit vibe, and so psychological is definitely, if it's done well and it's done right, you can grab your audience. And there's actually been studies that have been done. I forget, I actually did a show on this maybe last year at some point. I read some study overseas, maybe it was Sweden or something, where they actually studied this exact thing that we're talking about, the brain activity of viewers watching different types of horror. And when it came to like the more psychological, there was a much more response, I guess, that would elicit that they were more feel for
activity.
Exactly. I'm paraphrasing this. I might be completely off on the details of the study, but I remember finding it very interesting.
It does sound interesting.
Proves my point scientifically of the reaction that is going on physiologically when things are more nuanced and subtle and creepy and eerie and unknown, and because the brain gets working, right? The brain gets working overtime, and there's a natural sort of biological effect there too, that would obviously help us in the wild, right? I mean, if we're out in the wild and we're apes out in the wild, and whatever the case is, and the fight or flight response and the unknown, and you hear something and what's going on, what's over there, I hear something but I don't know what that is, and I got to go check it out, whatever. I mean, that's like, what, that it's kind of like that, and so there's a kind of there's a creepiness to it, and there was an actual larger response to that than seeing blood, guts, and gore. It was fascinating.
Yeah, there's two genres that are more gimmick than they are dramatic, and it's comedy and horror.
Yes.
What do you look for in horror? Like what do you need to be in a horror film to really be pleased?
Well, it depends, of course, on the subgenre. But if we're talking about what I really enjoy watching now at my age, I definitely there needs to be some sort of nuanced slow burn. Drip feed me, not overly slow where I'm like, oh my God, but let the film breathe. The one thing that I really love actually about the first Conjuring movie, and I see that James Wan's got another film coming out called Malignant, I think. I just watched the trailer today. It's a horror film. It's his first horror film since The
Mm.
Conjuring 2, I think. But what I really appreciate about that first Conjuring movie is it's a nice balance. It's you get the theatrics, you get the sensationalism towards the end of the film, but he drip feeds you, and
Mhm.
he does work on you psychologically, even though it's not it wouldn't necessarily be classified like a psychological horror film per se. It's probably more of a supernatural film. But he drip feeds it really well. One of my favorite scenes in that film, and by doing that, it allows you to get emotionally attached to the characters because nobody peaks too soon, and the film doesn't peak too soon. And there's a great scene in that film where the girls are upstairs in their bed, and one of the girls wakes up and is looking at the corner of her bedroom,
Oh, yeah.
and we don't see anything as an audience. We don't see it. She clearly does, and she's like, "What is that? I don't know." It's brilliant, it's like, and then the camera looks, and you kind of have her in frame, and the camera's back here, and we don't see it. It's just a dark corner, and now your mind starts going. I
Mhm.
imagine if you and I were hooked up to EKGs or whatever, our brains would be going, and it's there. And then her sister's like, "What are you talking about? What's going on?" No, I don't know what it is. And now it's like, what the fuck? Theater of the mind.
Mm.
Theater of the mind. That's what I look for. Theater of the mind. Now, there obviously has to be a payoff at some point. And what that payoff is, sometimes whatever it is either going to succeed with the audience because they're on board and it's satisfying, or you always run the risk of the audience being like, I don't know, it was okay up until, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you get that too, but that's the risk that you take. You do have to deliver at some point. You have to, there has to be a payoff, but before you pay it off, you got to make the journey a ride, and you have to really get into your audience psychologically. And I love that. I appreciate The Conjuring for that. It's a creepy film.
Mm.
It's eerie. I don't mind part two. I think part one is better. But certainly part two, I think, is a acceptable sequel because you have one and you have his understanding of what came before and his directing sensibilities of horror and all that. I think he's a good horror director. And I think he understands that nuance. But that first Conjuring was really good. Very much like the first Insidious. The first Insidious I thought was good too, in that sense.
Mhm.
That there was a lot of that slow. Like, one of the best things about that first Insidious, and it's brilliant, is when Rose Byrne's character, she's, I don't know, she's doing laundry or something, right? And the camera's following her, right? It's a tracking shot, and the camera's following her around the house, and she just walks in between, from one room to the next. There's like a laundry room or something, and she walks through the laundry room into the kitchen or something. And in the corner is that boy. In the corner, and the camera doesn't draw attention to it,
Mhm.
doesn't pan over to it. It's just in the corner as you walk through. The boy is in the corner facing the wall, and Rose doesn't react to it. The camera doesn't react to it. If you, as an audience, they play it like, hey, the audience is either going to see it or they won't, and we're just going to play it like that. Yes, that's brilliant. That's nuance. That's theater of the mind. That's like, what the fuck was that? Did you? What the hell was that? Is it going to come to mean something? Is it not? Obviously, it does a few moments later. But that's great. That's smart. I wish we could. And again, that depends on the genre, of course. I mean, if you're making a movie like Friday the 13th, that might not, a slow burn might not lend itself to that.
No.
But
No.
certainly getting in here and playing in those worlds and it can be fun to do, because I certainly had fun doing it with It's Me, Billy, with Justine, and is like, is something gonna happen? Is something gonna happen? Is something gonna happen? Is something gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Why are we okay? We're lingering on the shot way too long. Why the fuck are we on the shot? Why are we just lingering on the shot? You know what I mean? It's fun. It's fun. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but thankfully it did in our film. And I really appreciate when it's done well. So definitely mood and atmosphere. Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say mood and atmosphere. And again, mood and atmosphere isn't just, light and shadow. Mood is a feeling. It's an over aesthetic tone to the film. How you frame your shots, how you composite your shots. Are you, is the camera moving and things like that. I mean, the hallway shot, with the girls in It's Me, Billy, just walking into the house, we have the camera on a jib on track, slowly pushing in, towards them. it's daylight, the light is cascading in, but the movement of the camera can create mood and atmosphere too, and a tone and a feeling as you're watching it. So mood and atmosphere, slow burn, and something psychological.
Yeah, that's pretty astute. I wholeheartedly agree.
Thank you very much. Glad we agree.
Finally,
we agree. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
We've been going pretty long. I have one final question that I ask everybody. The WILI in my channel name stands for Will I Like It. If you had to sell yourself, whether it be your channel or your voice work.
You mean, sorry, I'm trying to understand the question. Will I like it? Like who will somebody like me?
You'll like me if.
Oh, you'll like me if. Oh, okay, I see. Okay. You will like me if, you know, if you appreciate informed opinions. I try to be as informed as I possibly can. Real talk. I don't bullshit around. I will give you my thoughts and opinions. And if you agree, that's great. If you don't, that's okay too. But if you enjoy, you know, theatrics and funny voices and information packaged in a fun way, then I think you'll enjoy. I think you'll enjoy my channel. That's the YouTube side. With the voiceover side, I mean, it's hard to say. If you enjoy voiceover, I guess you'll enjoy me. I have no idea how to. If you enjoy voiceover, hire me. Maybe say that. I don't know. But no, I think it's just if you appreciate candid, down to earth info mixed in with humor, I think you'll enjoy my channel.
And as far as your filmmaking is concerned, is there a future?
A future? I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I would love to be able to. I mean, that's what I got into the business first to do. I mean, that's what I went to school to do. Is I wanted to make movies, and I mean, I enjoyed. You know, I mean, look, I mean, in this day and age, people can do everything. So I certainly can continue to do the voiceover and be Freddy Krueger and make a movie at the same time. And thankfully, you know, we live in an age where we can do that. But yeah, I'm hoping that the filmmaking side of my career continues to move forward in a positive direction, and I can bookend It's Me, Billy, and make other films too. That would be great, because certainly it is one of my first loves and passions.
And when do you start filming for Dylan's New Nightmare?
I don't know yet. As of shooting this interview, Cecil is running his the second campaign, the Indiegogo campaign for Dylan's New Nightmare. It's supposed to end, I think, at the end of July. There's rumblings about this fall, maybe October or something like that. I'm in Toronto, Canada, obviously, so the border has been an issue. The border is on the verge of their loosening restrictions right now with the border, but they're still trying to iron out details about traveling and who can go where and what the protocols and the procedures are when you come back and all that kind of jazz. But the wheels are in motion for that. So whether I'll be able to come down for an October shoot, I don't know. I hope so. I really hope so, because I know that, I mean, let's be honest, I'm part of the reason why this thing has been delayed. I mean, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I feel like Lando in The Empire Strikes Back. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. But it is what it is, right? It's nobody's fault. I mean, it's just, you know, the circumstances of the world. But I think it's possible that we could start shooting in October, maybe early next year. I mean, certainly when you shoot in Arizona, you don't have to worry about snow. So that's always a possibility. So maybe January, maybe just, I don't know, but certainly soon. I think it's going to be, I think we're going to start feeling and hearing the rumblings of it soon.
And as far as your channel is concerned, is there anything big you have coming up?
No. No, I mean, I'm just, I don't think so. I'm just doing my thing on my channel, and you know, I have a YouTube show that I do several times a week called McRae Live. Then I have this movie watch party I do with this guy out of Atlanta, Georgia. This photographer, his name's Tony Michael, who loves movies too. And it's called Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. And we watch a movie every Monday night, and we ask people to join us. So we do that. Next Monday, I think, is Jurassic Park. We're doing 90 summer disaster films, I think is what we're doing right now. And just talking movies on the channel. I've never really had a plan for the channel. Maybe I should have a plan. But I've never had a plan. I just have sort of let it evolve organically and grow organically and kind of see where it goes and where it takes me. And maybe I should have a plan.
It's worked so far. So congratulations for that.
I appreciate that. So far, so good. Anyway.
And thank you so much for taking this time out and spending it with me and discussing so much there is to discuss.
I know. I feel like we've just hit the tip of the iceberg too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I'm looking at the clock.
So
I'm
much.
like, yeah, I could probably go another 6 hours, I think.
Yeah, I know. You know me. I mean, it's, I could probably go till 6 in the morning. I mean, look, I appreciate you having me on, and it's great to finally connect and talk and get to know each other. I think that's because obviously I've seen your channel and I've seen Cecil on your channel and all that. So it's great to finally.
And you were on my channel in ghost spirit.
I was. Somebody had logged in and apparently that's not Dave McRae. Is it Dave McRae? No, that's not Dave McRae. And yes, it's me. No, really. But the audio was garbage. I don't know what I listened back and I'm like, I can't believe you guys didn't say, Dave, it sounds like you're speaking through a tube.
That's the ultimate irony. The sound guy. It sounded like he's
terrible. I don't know if I had, because I had my phone like this. And I don't know if I had something covering the mic, maybe because I was leaning it up against a jar or something. So you could see, and maybe part of the jar was covering the mic or something. Because God, it sounded like crap. It was like, and I'm like, how are they even hearing me? It's just awful. God. But no, I mean, I appreciate it. And it was fun, man. Yeah, we'll have to do it again.
Yes. And everything we've talked about regarding Dave will be linked down below. And be on the lookout for stuff in the future from both WILIscredia and Dave McRae. For Dave McRae, I have been Charles, aka CP. Have a day.